Welcome to Boxing Fans Talk TV. I'm your host, TDT. You can refer to me as Miss T. Today might not be a long show, but I'm going to power through it. See how long I can go. But y'all saw the thumbnail. Why now is it relevant for Danny Garcia to explain a loss to EJ? I said maybe it's just to get more viewers. I don't know, but we're going to unpack that. Y'all know the drill. First, let's turn to Hey, welcome back. Boxing Fans Talk TV. I'm your host, TDT. I always say you can refer to me as T. In full disclosure, you guys, I might not be long. Um, just now, right before I came on, I could feel my throat swelling. So I took some medicine. We'll see how I go. But anywho, y'all saw the thumbnail. Why now is it relevant for Danny Garcia to explain the loss that he had to EJ? I know at the top of the hour, we always do a water check, water check. I'm at my usual 10 bottles, and I drank 8-ounce bottles of water. So, I'm on target. Before the night over with, of course, I think I could get about 3, 4 more bottles in. Here at Boxing Fans Talk TV, we advocate for you to drink at least 100 ounces of water a day. Um, if you're not a water drinker, that's okay. You can gradually get used to it, but you need to start. It's very hot this summer. Seems like everybody got these stories that I talk to uh, from around the country. It's like, man, it's hot as hell. It's more hot this year than it usually be. And that might be the case because it's hot down here too. But, if you don't drink water, then at least twice a day you should drink water. And that amounts to about 16 ounces. Drink a glass of water whenever you can. Drink it before you eat. Drink it before you do anything. Drink the water first. But first thing in the morning, hold your toes, hit the ground before you do your hygiene regimen in the bathroom in the morning. Then, drink you 8-ounce glasses of water even before you brush your teeth. Because your body is up now. It's like an engine. A lot of moving parts, and the water is the lube. Second time is at night when before when you're laying down for the night, go to sleep, not looking at TV or doing anything else. Just before you take that night rest, drink you 8 ounce glass of water. Keep that thing on the nightstand beside your bed. A lot of reads going on at night when you go to sleep. You're revamping, you're rebooting, you're recharging, cleaning out toxins in your body. Um, the average human burns between 900 to 1,000 calories of water. Sorry, calories a day. 900 to 1,000 calories a day, and so you need to drink your water. It's gonna help you flush out stuff. You get up and use the bathroom in the morning, and it's good for you. You want to stay hydrated. That's all of us stay hydrated, especially in this hot climate. So, we're gonna do a little housekeeping too. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, don't worry about it. You locked in. But if you're watching me on replay, then leave a message. I read them all, and I'm open minded, but I'm always TT. So keep that in mind. But that's the water check. Please, please, please drink your water this summer. Drink your water all year, but especially this summer. Especially if you're in these hot climates. Stay hydrated. Well, Danny Garcia has recently, I guess between him and his father, because I saw the video, but Danny is he's co-signing it. So I guess this is how Team Garcia feels. Danny Garcia now claims he was at 50% when he fought Errol Jr. At this point, he feels he is at least 85% improved since then. So, of course, I always ask the question, why? Why are you saying this now? Why we need this explanation? But that's what he wanted to tell the boxing community. And then Angel explains the reason. So he said the reason was for his weakened state was simply he was mentally and physically worn out. This is why Danny felt he was at 50%. Angel co-signed that. Yeah, he wasn't all the way there when he fought EJ. This is what they're saying. It don't mean a lot of people believe it. Because, well, this ain't flying too good with the boxing community or the fans, And I have to agree with that. I really have to agree with that. Why? Because what is the reason to say this now? I'm not sure. I'm not upset. This ain't one of those things that get my blood going. But I'm not upset why he said it. But if you have an acute problem before or after the fight, then yes, mention that right away to the public. I'll give you an example. Teofimo, when he was talking about his little problem that he had. Welcome to the building, Jerry. I'm gonna open up the phone lines in a second. Hey, it's Bob Arum's cousin. I knew y'all was some kin. So, if you have an acute problem, and what I mean by acute, most of us know what that is, like what I got right now. I have a the back of my throat is swelling. I can feel it. And that's why I say I might not even be here that long. But that's an acute problem. If it happened, if I was a boxer and the bell rung and I could feel it coming, I'd be like, training time out. I can't. Or before the fight, I'd be like, I can't do it. I'm saying. But you mention those. You mention them right away, regardless of what the public may feel and think. But if you have a problem that's, some about how you feel, maybe you feel groggy, maybe you got the bubble guts, maybe you got something, don't mention that because, as I said yesterday, a reason is still an excuse. An excuse by any other name is still an excuse. Now, what people try to ascertain once you offer excuses is how legitimate they really are. Errol Spence won that fight fair and square. Point blank, period. There's no reason to talk about that. But you know where that thinking on that subject would do Danny good or just be something that the public would be interested in? When you write your biography, when you write your story. As all boxers, I think, when they do hang up their gloves, they should write their story, for prosperity, to give insight into your mental of what you was thinking and going through leading up to and during a fight, whether you won, lost, or draw. Danny, that would be a good time to mention how you felt going into that fight. But the thing that they did too was go a little bit further, and they said if he was 100%, they feel that they could beat EJ. That's what they feel. But EJ told you he wasn't 100% right away. But we knew he won't because he had just had a car accident and he was coming back from that. So, anybody could say he not 100%. I would say even today that EJ is not all the way the same. Because once you have something like that happen to you, you're not the same. I say that about Terrence Crawford as well. He ain't the same. He had something traumatic happen to him, and he went on to become the boxer that we all know and love. So yeah, I mean, you can tell these stories, but Danny's story is more like I feel. And Danny is moving out the 147 division, and he haven't really accomplished much in that division. And he's moving out to 154. And Danny would tell you he feels much better. He feels much more comfortable. Well, it might be some truth to it, because Danny is in his 30s now. And when you get 30, I don't care who you are, decline starts. Whether you notice it or not, it will reveal itself momentarily. Everybody's different. It can hit you right at 30. It could be when you're 34 that you really take a nosedive. Who knows? But the decline has started. That process has started. But as I say, if you didn't feel 100% or whatever, that would be good for a book. That would help your book sell. People will buy it because we're a champion and you're giving us insight to, what was you thinking at this, that, and the other. Because right now when you say that shit, it's like it comes off like an excuse. And Angel says that his son just wasn't happy. When a fighter's not happy, all kinds of things can happen, and derailment mentally, could show up in the actual fight. So, they were fighting during COVID, and you just feel like with the pressure of trying to avoid this person or that person, just so you don't pop positive on the COVID test, and making all these new rules, following all these new rules when it came to fighting during the bubble, and getting to the hotel and staying in, just all this extracurricular. What if you was an ounce over or 5 ounces over the weight limit? You could go down in the gym and burn that off real quick. Now I've heard people complain like that, like I couldn't do it from my hotel room. We was limited. So and then you got to be quarantined the whole time, and the stress of it all, I guess. But as far as I'm concerned, EJ was the better man that night. He won, plain and simple. See, Danny and his team feels he was feeling better. He's feeling better. Like I said, they will win. and they offering it up. His fight is coming up this weekend. I think it's this weekend or next weekend with Jose Benevidez. So I mean, I don't know what better way he could explain or say something concerning his fight coming up. I feel like they use that as a to draw in viewers. It's different. It's different from people like Ryan Garcia, his tactics for drawing in viewers to his fight. But maybe this is a way to say, "Oh, you wasn't 100%. Oh, and you feel much better at this weight." Because everybody, the question looms over Danny's head. Why you moving up? You haven't really cemented yourself at 147. The top guy, you have opportunities, but the top guys at 147, you didn't beat. Didn't beat Keith Thurman. Didn't beat Errol. You didn't beat Sean Porter. And when you was at 140, you quickly moved out of there as soon as Bud came up there too. So I guess Danny rather for that not to be the narrative, because now he's moving to 154. But if you couldn't clean out or handle 147 real good, people gonna say, what makes you think you can handle 154? So let me humbly ask you guys, hit that subscribe button, please. Hit the like and share and subscribe button. See y'all coming on in. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Now, Danny don't want y'all to feel like that, so now he's giving y'all a reason. Hey, look, I wasn't at 100%. Of course, everybody can blame COVID, and it's not far-fetched for fans to see how that could be a problem. COVID was a problem for everybody. It was stressful, pressurous. I mean, the whole country shut down. Remember, people didn't go to work. People lost jobs. Some jobs didn't come back. Working from home. I mean, again, all of this stuff can be stressful. Kids had to do their work from home. That was a big life-changing thing to try to maintain what you normally would do, like as far as your career. That was a hard thing. So that's what he wanted to tell us. And I don't understand. And guess what? Excuse me. I think people was gonna watch the fight regardless. That's the crazy thing about it. I think people are gonna watch his fight with Jose Benavidez because both of them sort of moving up at the same time. Jose fought Bud, so I mean, Danny never fought Bud, so people was gonna move up. Quentin Bradley is in the building. What's popping, King? We accepting Danny excuses. Are we not accepting Danny excuses? Hey, Miss T, what's good, Quentin? Me either, Quentin. Girl, beat that ass fair and square. So, we didn't ask for that explanation. Danny Show gave it to us, didn't he? In his fight, I must admit that he was not aggressive. In that fight with Earl, I was looking at it, I said, he's not aggressive like he usually be. And I'm thinking in my head, I wonder why. Or he looked hesitant. There are times when I was like, oh, your punch, Danny, like you normally do. And I wasn't sure why. But as I thought about it and the fight was over, maybe them hard ass hits made him, think twice. Because Danny would throw with you. I ain't gonna say he completely abandoned that, but I think why he didn't come up victorious, me personally, is because he was hesitant. He was very hesitant, and he needed not to be. If he'd have fought normally, I'm not saying he would have won, but maybe it would have been more than just a one-sided victory. Jerry Tasker said, Papa Garcia just doing a capping for his son on the PR side of things. Anything Danny went through, Vince went through. Exactly. That is not going to fly with the fans or the people who know better. Earl beat your ass fair and square. And I like you, Danny. But this shit you could have saved for the book, your biography that you write when you retire. But like actually, just name off all the fighters and say, in this particular fight, I wasn't feeling my best, blah, 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 blah. No excuse. You always gotta say no excuse. But this is just how I was feeling. And it just, it was Errol Spence was the better man that night. I don't see why that's so hard to even say. But for some reason, like I said, I don't know if it's Danny, starting to feel like, damn, if I, because sometimes you look back and you have regrets and all that, or maybe it's the guilt talking. Because I really think he's running up out of the 47 division. You got people you can fight. You can fight Virgil Ortiz. You can fight Boot Sanders. I don't give a care that both of y'all from Philly. There's some people you can fight before you exit stage left. Definitely can fight Bud. And we all think that Bud or Spence, once they have their fight, it's over with. The winner is going to drop their belts and move up. I can't be mad at either one of them for doing that because they all do that. Everybody does that. So that's how they seeing it. Everyone in the boxing community needs to learn a better way of advertising and promoting their fights. I really think when I try to cancel out why was he or answer the question why, I think it was to draw more viewership. Because you do look like you running out the 147, And then he said, Danny also said, "Well, shit, I feel real good at 154. I want me and Earl to fight again at 154." I'm like, oh, just killed all that. I don't know. I don't know. You just had a bad night. If you had a bad night, again, save it for the book. I'll come out here now, talking about some, he wasn't 50%, just at 50. Nobody even asked you. That's the crazy part. I don't think nobody asked you, but, to explain yourself. Time to explain yourself would have been at the post press conference. If it was any time to say it. But acute problems, yes. Got a medical issue that was going down while you was fighting, say that shit right away. Yeah. But how you felt, nigga, nah, put that shit in the book. I was gonna talk about Haney and Camboso. Like saying it was being reported that they have a date now, October 15. But then Haney came out and said, no, that's cap, ain't nothing, that's just on. But what we do know is the venue that they had when they fought June 5th it's a waste of time and money to put it in that venue because it holds a lot of people. They say he barely got 40,000 or right over 40,000. So what's the point in holding it there? They probably gonna look for a venue that holds less people. We already know there's not a lot of interest in that fight. Who wants to see the rematch? It was such a one-sided victory for Haney. What can happen differently? Haney could decide to just get your ass out there earlier. It could be a worse ass whooping. You didn't. George didn't have an answer. Which ain't really saying much. But Haney came out and said that's not true. He said cap or something like that. That's not true. So I don't know. It's still gonna be a top ranked event, and it's gonna be played on ESPN. So that's all I had to say about that. Luis Ortiz might be predicting a KO, but when he faced Andy Ruiz, but what I can say is I don't think he could be able to do all that. And he still got his power because they say power is the last to leave. But Luis Ortiz, he looking old, y'all. He looking old. I looked at his profile his side profile, and that man looked like he in his mid-50s. I mean, he'll still have his power, but his agility, his reflexes, all of that shit might have been diminishing. I think he older than what he say he is too, because I mean, what happened? He aged that quick. Like, dog, he looking old, or does everybody age out real quick after fighting Deontay Wilder? Does everybody look different or something? His last outing when he fought Martin, which was a pay per view, I think they make Luis Ortiz fights pay per view. I don't know if it's because he fought the big guy Wilder, and so now they trying to take the lemons and make it lemonade, or they not gonna pay his ass. But they giving him doing him a solid by giving him a fight period, but they don't really want to pay him. So the bulk of his money will come with the pay per view. Maybe they just trying to show him, look, this how many people is really interested. Next to none. And his profile, he looking real old. And I'm just telling this. I'm gonna open it up, y'all. But like I said, my throat is swelling, so I want to make sure I get the news out and whatever. But I'm gonna drop the link real quick. Adrian Broner has now admitted to making a mistake, bailing out of his interview with Brian Custer the other day. He also apologized to Al Heyman, Steven Espinosa, and Mayweather for the unpleasant and negative comments he made about them. For me, it's hard to feel sorry for Adrian Broner. Adrian was a person who didn't feel sorry for other folks on his way, on his rise when he was doing the damn thing in his eyes, when he was winning and shit. Adrian was very honorary. He didn't care. And on his way up and on his way down, he's seeing them same people. And I would suspect that people probably secretly in their head like, that's what your bitch ass get. But this is why you don't need to, treat people um, harshly, or treat people with some respect. Put some respect on that shit. And Adrian was the type that he would laugh at your expense. I mean, what he can't take right now is weird because it was what he was dishing all along. So I understand if you feel a certain way because, you know, the boxing thing, like if you've been training all this long time and, the fight was slow to get here. But, I don't really feel sorry for him. I don't dislike him. I always root for him. Adrian seems like he go hot and cold. I kind of like a bipolar person or something. Uh, but that not having sympathy and shit. Hey, that's how he was. I also want to let y'all know Sunday I'll be doing one of my shows. My Yeah, I'll be doing one of my shows. My Sunday shows. I got a lot of email here in the last couple of weeks about dieting or whatever. As y'all know, one of the things I do is I help people find the health in them. That's my program. Um, I will say for me, it's a completed program. But a lot of times when I talk about it, people always say, you should do this or you should do that. Nothing against them or anything. But how you going to complete? So I'm not in the gathering of information phase. I do be open minded. I do stumble onto things and be like, oh, I wonder if I add this. I told you guys how I came up with this program, and it was selfish to help me with my medical issues. But enough of you guys wrote me, so I'm going to do a show this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1300 military time. So I dropped the link in the chat. Open up the phone lines. And, I don't know how long I'm going to be here because I feel this shit. Took some medicine. I was just testing and make sure phone lines are open. I don't know how long. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. But Yeah, I just found that was weird, that he gonna try to offer up an excuse. Talk about Danny. I don't get why he would do that. And yesterday, if you guys missed the show, I went in on Ryan Garcia's followers. So I'm gonna give you a little update with that. Listen, there's a method to my madness. Everything I said I was gonna prove, I offered in the show, but it's still ongoing. I learned something that I thought. I really don't believe that Ryan Garcia got real followers because, like I said, the phone lines are open. Want to call in, Jerry? Because what I saw is I have to go by what I see. If I make up a tag with Errol Spence and I talk about his followers like I did Ryan's, I did that for a reason. And they say he got 8 million followers. Hardly any of them came here. Hardly any of them came, which tells me what I thought was true in the first place. He buys his followers. That's how I see it. At this point, that's what I believe. And yes, you can buy followers. You can, I've always known that. I've been knowing that for a minute. In fact, there's a lot of YouTubers out here that do just that. I don't have a heaven or hell to put nobody in who does it. I don't feel a certain kind of way. I don't take what I'm saying to mean like, oh, I'm down in them. I don't. How you get your hustle is how you get your hustle. But for instance, I'm gonna give you an example. If I came out and said something negative about Beyonce, you know how much those beehives would converge on me to get me?
Call from
Jerry.
They would jump on my ass quicker than shit. What's up, Jerry? But and
What's
if I
happening?
if I said something about Earl or Bud or whoever, if I talked about their following, they would jump in here quick as shit to get me. And that didn't happen. Not for Ryan. But I had to be prepared. How I was going in on them, I don't normally talk like that about anybody. But I call them stupid, idiots, ignorant, all that shit. I even had one person come in and say, why do that or whatever. I'm proving a point. I'm proving a point. And by the way, as an update for him, he finally had a response from Mayweather. Took him long enough. I thought he would have been on as bad as he say he want to fight with Tank. But he told Mayweather anytime, any place, any weight. And then he added the extra like, and you can get it too. That damn Ryan Garcia is stupid as hell. But what's up, Jared? What you got on it?
Oh yeah, let me do a little talking since your throat is sore. You know me, I'll do a lot of talking. uh, Danny Garcia, I like Danny. Danny's a good fighter. He's a damn good fighter, Danny Garcia. And Danny is a humble guy. If you listen to Danny talk, he's a pretty humble guy. It's his daddy that does all the talking and all the capping. But believe it or not, his daddy has made him more famous than what he would have been on his own. Because it's a simple fact in boxing and in life, haters will pay more to watch you lose than your fans will to watch you win. So you look at any big time pay per view fighter or historically great fighter, everybody didn't love them. They had plenty of people that loved them, from Ali to Tyson to Mayweather, you name it, and then you had plenty of people that hated them. That's almost goes along with greatness. Uh, like soup and sandwich. Now, I'm not saying Danny is great, like a historical great. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying his dad, in a backhanded kind of way, has made him more famous than what he would have been based on just his own. And him talking about, not being right for the Spence fight, I'm sure that it was different for them, during all that shit that was going on, because they didn't, they weren't able to really get to the training spots and stuff like that, like the way they normally would. But in the end, it's just a convenient excuse to say because whatever Danny went through, or Earl went through the same thing. It's just a convenient excuse. I thought about why did Danny move up to 54, and he's been talking about that for a couple years, though. It's not like he just popped up and just jumped up there. I'd seen him talking about it about a year and a half ago, saying that he's outgrowing the weight. And I thought, okay, you don't really look like that big of a welterweight to me, but he's kind of on the thick side. I thought, okay, but if you think about it, there's really nothing there for him at 147. He'd already fought everybody except for Bud, and he likely not going to get that fight. The titles are jammed up between two fighters, and hopefully soon they'll be jammed up with just one guy. So there ain't much there for him except to take a high risk, low reward type of fight against one of these strong up and comers like Boots or Ortiz. And that's not in the cards, not for a veteran like him. And unless the money was there, if there was good, real good money, I think Danny would fight either one of those guys, win or lose. But they're not. Their names aren't big enough to really bring the type of money that to make the fight. And it's just a high risk, low reward. So there's really not much left there for him to do. He already fought everybody. The titles are jacked up. There's just one or two high risk, low reward fights. So up to 54 he goes. I like this first matchup, and we'll see. How he might do against Jermell Charlo. I don't know. I kind of feel like Jermell Charlo too big and too fast for him.
Yeah, but you know what? He moving up to a new weight. And if you go by the logic of Spence and the Charlos and everybody else when discussing Bud, they be like, when you go up to a new weight, you pretty much ain't nothing in that weight. You got to start over.
Well, not someone like Garcia. Garcia, they'll get him fights because he's got he's got a name. He'll be able to get fights. I'm pretty sure of that.
But Jared, don't you see how crazy that sounds? If that means it means that for Bud, it should mean that for everybody.
Yeah, I know, but Bud doesn't fight for PBC. PBC has the junior middleweight champion, the undisputed champion. They already have that fighter in their stable. You see what I mean? Bud was able to get fights against Bob Arum's champions. That's how he became undisputed, and that's why I say, it seems to make perfect sense for Danny to move up there because there's nothing for him at 47, and the undisputed champ is a stablemate of his right there in the next division up. So that's what I hear rumors is they're going to want to make that fight at some point, and I say good for it. But like I say, to me, Jermell is maybe a little too big. Jermell looks like he's got good size on him at 54, and he's on a real stride right now. And plus, he's just a kick-ass fighter anyway. So Danny is a puncher. I know that he is, even though like all these guys, when he fights the elite, the KOs kind of don't happen like they should or used to. But Danny packs a good punch. He's a little slow. He was slow at 47. He loads up on his punches a lot. And every time I watch him, I get frustrated, and I think, man, dude, use some hand speed. Don't just walk in flat-footed and unload hooks and power shots. I mean, yeah, if that works when it works, but when it don't work, you gotta move to Plan B. And Plan B, I mean, I know he can move his hands fast. He might not be the fastest fighter in any division, but I know he can move his hands faster than that. And he's a bit predictable, and that's what I've seen in his big fights. He's dangerous but predictable.
Yeah, he punches with them. So it's almost like he'll take the punch that the person throwing, but can they take his? And right, I mean, I never looked at him like this super fast person. I never looked at him like slow neither. But there is a fighter he could face, and that's Boots.
Yeah, but that's a very high risk and probably low reward fight. I mean, look, PBC works in conjunction with Boots. I'm not sure exactly what his relationship is.
He's now signed to Showtime, which PBC all their fights are on Showtime.
They know who he is. That's for sure. They know who Boots Ennis is. Boots, I've seen his scenario play out a million times, and Mayweather is a great example. What's going to have to happen for him to really get some names? They're going to have to overpay. just like they overpaid Hernandez when Floyd, because Floyd, he was having trouble getting his first title shot. Hernandez gave it to him, and he never forgot that. Floyd, he took care of Hernandez in ways that a lot of people don't realize. And that's why I try not to get too personal with fighters, because you find out things about them that the good guys, the ones you think are good guys, beat up their wives and terrorize and bully their families. The ones that people think are bad guys do shit like Mayweather did, which was he took care of Hernandez. He gave his family money because he got sick, or Gennaro, after they fought. He got sick, and Floyd paid for his funeral and all sorts of shit, and he didn't have to do that.
Or do that behind the scenes philanthropy shit. Hey, let me interrupt one time, Jerry. You was about to say something, but hold on. Hey, Quentin, I just saw y'all show the other day. Boy, you are funny as hell, man. You one of my favorite. You and Big Fish, one of my favorite Errol fans or whatever. Boy, that dude heated, boy. I was laughing so damn hard. I just wanted you to know that, man. You was funny as hell. Every time I feel like I gotta cook somebody, I think about you. Cause you be clicking them pots together, don't you? But go ahead, Jerry. Oh, wait a minute. Andrew Charles is in the building. Salute, Miss T. He says so. Salute to you, King. So what was you gonna get into, Jerry? Cause I put out the news. I kind of shortened it. Like I said, I took medicine, y'all, and I hope everything just simmers down. But yeah, I want to make sure I give a complete show. But Jerry, you was gonna say something?
Yeah, well, Ryan Garcia. Now I missed the show last night, but I heard what you said you was talking about. But what I don't understand is how people don't seem to make these basic correlation that exists between a fighter and a fighter's popularity, and how that translates to the fighter getting big fights. And this goes all the way back to Ali, and throughout the history of boxing. You talk about Ryan Garcia's Instagram followers, right? Well, that's not something meaningless in boxing, not at all. In fact, when you want to be a big star, that's what you got to get. You got to get the attention of people who otherwise wouldn't watch boxing, because the hardcore fan's not going to make up for enough to make you a star. And look no further than Jake Paul. Jake Paul has built his whole deal on Instagram followers, and he's making more money than most professional prize fighters are. So it's a perfectly legitimate. And I heard Ellerby talk a couple years ago, and he said, "Man, if Tank fights any of these guys, it's going to be Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia has got his brand." If you think about what Ryan has actually accomplished in the sport of boxing, it's not commensurate with his popularity. And had he not had that setback that fucked him, where he fucked up for a year and a half or so, had he been staying busy during that time, he probably would be very, very well talked about right now. So those Instagram followers and a fighter's popularity amongst casuals is pretty much exactly what determines if they're going to be big stars or not. Because that's what you want. You want people that ordinarily they're not watching boxing. No, they're not boxing fans. They're not going to sit and talk about Errol Spence for an hour and shit like that. They don't know. But they're young girls, perhaps, maybe even some older women, and they're just people that might not typically watch. Like I say, that's how Jake Paul got all the way to where he is. Almost, he got that way exclusively through that type of working, because he's not a real boxer like Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney or any of these guys that we talk about. He was a YouTube guy, and here he is, getting big money to fight. So that really illustrates that. No, if you're a fighter nowadays and you're not doing that TikTok bullshit and whatever it is they do, and you're not doing that, well, shame on you. Shame on you. You need to get someone in your camp, somebody that works for you, to up your game in that area, because that's a powerful tool that fighters have at their disposal nowadays that they didn't always have.
That's what I'm gonna speak to, Jerry. First, let me get these chats. Mr. Golden is in the building. What's poppin'? Can you say hello, my beautiful black queen, Lady T? Yeah, y'all was on one. That shit was funny. Quentin said, yeah, old boy got extremely emotional and super moist. Did he now? Yeah, he did. He did, which is crazy because he was cooking the hell out of Steven. And then you turn around and try to get you and fried an egg on his ass. Mr. Golden said, Quentin Bradley, what's up? You know, and Andrew said salute to Mr. Golden said. But right, Jerry, and look, to a certain extent, this is where I disagree a little bit. Okay, yes, you got social media. That wasn't around before. And when you bring up Jake Paul, to say that, but it's kind of like backwards with Jake Paul. Jake Paul had about 60 million followers just from that. They struck gold, him and his brother, just doing YouTube. But I think when they young, when you young, shit come easy to you, it's on to the next. Like any little kid will play with something, but their mind is easily not focused. You know what I'm saying? That's what the Paul brothers strike me as. They struck gold through YouTube. I mean, you can't get no higher than 60 million. That's without boxing. Then they come into boxing. Jake Paul don't do what Ryan did. Ryan used his social media as leverage. It's like when we showed that video, I think it was September 9th at Errol Spence gave. He was in a blue sweater. And he was talking about this was like the first time he started putting down Terrence Crawford. And for me, I was like, why? I mean, nobody asked you to do it, and you're just doing it. But one thing he said that was very poignant in that interview, if you want to call it an interview, he was just looked like he was at somebody's fight, like a post press conference or something. And he said, if we fight, he was emphatic. I'm not fighting for ESPN. I never will. I'm PBC. It's Showtime of Fox. He made that point clear. Then he goes on to say, if we fight, I'm the A side. Right? The arrogance of it all. That's what I was saying. You have a belt. Terrence got a belt. How are you A side? Because at that time, no pay per view. Or I don't think he had a pay per view. So I don't know how you jump to those conclusions. Then you look at Ryan. I'm not saying you can't do nothing to leverage yourself to get paid or do what you got to do. But Ryan never had a pay per view. He never accomplished nothing in boxing. Football got the Super Bowl. NBA got the finals. Boxing got championship belts. Something Ryan has never done. But he got a nerve to get up and make a demand. He used it. I remember when him and Oscar was going back and forth. This is right before he got with Canelo. Kind of like what made Canelo open his arms to young Ryan is because he was complaining about how you get paid. And Canelo took him under his wings like shortly after that. He uses his followers as a reason to say he the hot ticket item. As if other boxers don't have followers or a considerable amount of followers. And it worked for him. I ain't hating on him. That was his hustle. But I purposely went after his followers to see who would rise up. Would they converge on me like Beyonce followers would? Say something wrong about her. See how the beehive could surround your ass and fry you up. No, if I said something about Errol Spence, he got followers. If I said what I said about Ryan's followers, about Earl followers, oh my God, it'd be a parking lot waiting before I even go live. I'd be like, damn, all these people waiting to get in. Same thing with Bud, same thing with Tank, whoever. And he's talking like that yesterday showed me he got ghosts. Like his followers might not even be real people. And then he used it so much.
The followers.
Hold on, Jerry. He used them so much. I'd be like, He the only one that really does that to me that I see. Everybody got followers, but Ryan used it as a justification why he's hot, and then turn around, walk around like he used followers, validate him, and give him credentials. And I proved my point yesterday. Where were they? 8 million. Somebody would have showed up, but not really. Some, I think one, maybe two. But that shows me right there. I couldn't get more explicit. I put the thumbnail up in time where people could be like, "What?" I even went to, I think one of his pages, and then said something. Said as much. Where were they? That proves what Oscar said. His followers do not translate or transition into his boxing career. They there for something else. And him
Well, I
conflating the two.
guarantee you that they do, just like they do for Jake Paul, because Jake Paul is not a fighter. People that watch his fights don't follow boxing. They don't know that the guys he's fighting aren't real boxers. The attraction is something else. And Ryan's not the only guy that talks about followers. He brags about it because he's got a bunch of them, and he knows that means something. And as does Leonard Ellerby.
Why? Because
The more
Ryan
the
made that
more
as a
people
criteria.
the
Who,
more
who, who,
people that know who you are, the better off you are as a bottom fact. And that's why all these fighters have Instagram.
Well, they tell you to
Uh,
use it to advertise, Jared, but that don't mean that they were
that's why
born
they
out of
got them.
his career. They weren't. They were. If Ryan never boxed, and he was a accountant, them people that follow him will still follow him. He's a good looking kid. He does that young people stuff that they like. That's why they follow him. Really don't
Yeah.
have nothing to do with boxing. But because they like him, they be like, "Oh, okay, I'll go look at your fight." Some of them, but it ain't transitioning.
Or they'll buy the fights. There's a reason why, and he's not. I wouldn't qualify him as a superstar currently, no. But there's a reason why he is where he is, and it's got little to do with what he's actually accomplished in boxing. It has every bit as much to do with his looks and his Instagram followers. And yes, that is leverage. And any fighter going to use any piece of leverage that they got to do what they want to do. And in fact, last week, what they was talking about some terms for the fight with Tank Davis. I heard Mayweather just say today that yeah, they can make the fight and they can fight within the next 90 days. Now, if Ryan and his demands, which are, let's face it, that's just a starting negotiating point. You always start high, or to try to, and then you negotiate down, because he knows he's not the A side over Tank Davis at this point. But Mayweather was talking like that. Hey, the fight can happen. So I don't think they realize, because like I say, Ellerby has said. I've heard Ellerby say that they like how Ryan moves. They like the moves he makes as far as marketing himself, and that's what makes for a big fight. And I would bet money that if Tank fights any of these guys that we call the top guys, or the guys that we talk about, it's going to be him. It's not going to be Devin Haney or Lomachenko. It's going to be Ryan Garcia. Even though they fight on different networks, and the fight probably going to be difficult to make.
But this is
The
what he
other thing is,
says. This is why I say he uses his followers to validate him. And
yes, he
and,
does.
and hold on. And that's what he says. Hey, the Devin Haney fight, I'm gonna let that simmer. I'm gonna let that marinate. I'll get to him. Hey, who the fuck is you? I don't care that you got 8 million followers. They like you because of super ain't got shit to do with boxing. Kudos
Well,
to
it
you
does.
for
It does though.
leveraging your followers, getting their help to get you wherever. But they obviously don't, they not too into them or follow boxing or something. Because I couldn't be more insulting yesterday. And Mayweather actually said that shit a couple of days ago. And the reason why I didn't say nothing when it first came out, because I wanted to see the responses. Now, who jumped on what Mayweather had to say? Because Mayweather was responding to Ryan talk about Tank leading up to the fight, everything. More so than he talked about Javier Fortuna. And Mayweather jump on and say, yeah, we can make it happen under two conditions. And that's the start of our negotiation. Right. And so he made his conditions be known. He said, first, with whatever order they come in, Oscar, you have to do an interview with Fight Hype and before, for us to consider it. And we fighting at 135. Both of them are not unreasonable requests. I would say the 135 is real boxing talk or whatever. Like, yeah, motherfucker, you've been fighting at 135 all this long time. Your followers cannot give you authority that you don't have. Talking about, I'm at 140 and I ain't moving down for nothing. And you know how he was at the end of the fight. You saw him say that. Number two, the Fight Hype video, that was Mayweather and Oscar having a dick swinging contest. That's how I chop that up too. Because I don't see why Oscar having to do a damn interview with Fight Hype makes a hill of beans different. But
okay, I know, but
them.
that's the problem. You don't see how this social media thing actually plays into the economics of it. But Mayweather making that demand only further underlines my point that he's making that part of the negotiation. The first part is that he wants Oscar De La Hoya to do an interview on Fight Hype, which is a platform that Mayweather's invested in.
Yeah,
and so that further makes the point. Why would that be a condition if it didn't mean something? It does mean something.
No, I'm not. But you misconstruing what I'm saying. I'm not saying that having that many followers, you can't look at it and be like, oh my God, this boy is popular. I'm saying that the way he uses his followers is team too much, because he basically saying, because I'm a boxer, if you didn't know no better, and most of his followers don't, if you didn't know no better, hey, I'm a boxer, they saw me, they like me, this is why I blew up on social media. No, I'm saying you didn't blow up for your boxing acumen on social media. You blew up because you're you. You do the young people stuff people like to see, and you're a good looking kid. They follow you not because you're a boxer. And so it's more so like I'm blowing up on social media like the Paul brothers did. And by the way, followers, I'm a boxer. So, do join in, do buy my fights, do come see my fights, all this stuff. Ryan paints the picture like, hey, you can be a shot caller, you can be the creme de la creme if you got a big following. He's the one who's now made that a criteria for boxers. You don't hear no other boxers talking like that. And you can't say Jake Paul, because only thing that Jake Paul can say about his followers, and which he don't even really talk like Ryan, is that Jake Paul got somewhere to advertise. His followers are real. They were there before he threw the first punch. And so he's rich. He got money.
But Jake Paul's, his followers, they weren't boxing fans neither. But it don't matter. In fact, it's better that they not be boxing fans, because that's where you're going to get the big money, when you get people that will watch your fights who don't watch boxing. So those followers aren't real boxing fans. No, I agree with you. And Ryan using it as leverage is something that he's going to do, because he doesn't. It's not like he's got world titles or an undisputed, credential that he can put up as a bargaining chip. So he uses that. Now, what it going to actually add up to, when it comes to making a big fight, is up to the promoters, and they got people that work around the clock figuring that shit out. What the actual value of a fighter is worth, and stuff like that. But let me move on to Tyson Fury. And again, my point that Tyson Fury will say anything.
Hold on, Jerry, you're gonna do a segue. I run this show. Hold on, I know you want to talk about Tyson Fury, but let me button this up. To anybody who watched the replay, y'all see Jerry? That's how Bob people get down. I love you, Jerry. So, let me button this up. I did do a show like that. I purposely did it that way for a reason. And I'm still trying to watch the residuals, you know what I'm saying? But I set out to prove a point and I did. Anybody else that you talk about their followers like that, because especially if it's tied to boxing or whatever their career is, those people will converge on you like a motherfucker. And nobody did that for Ryan. And Ryan put his foot in his mouth. He's backed into a corner. Excuse me. Mayweather answered right away. Oscar answered right away. So for that, Oscar and Mayweather on the same page. Like, yeah, let's get this fight done. We're gonna see the ball. This is the update, y'all. The ball is in Ryan's hand. It's his play to make. We'll see what he does. I'm patient enough to wait. But I feel like he bought his followers. Again, I don't have a heaven or hell for anybody in who does that. People can do it. A lot of people out there doing it. I don't feel no kind of way that I don't knock your hustle. That's your hustle. That's
Tank
your
has the same hustle. Whenever you hear Ellerby talk about Tank Davis, he says this guy is bringing eyes to the sport that aren't boxing fans. He's bringing a culture and bringing in a youth of people that aren't boxing fans, because Leonard Ellerby knows, like I know, that hardcore boxing fans that are going to pay $80 a fight, we make up for about 350 to maybe 500,000 people in the entire country.
he
330
don't fill
million
us
people.
80. He don't sell
What's that?
out. 8 million people, he should easily sell out. You asking what would it take to fill out a stadium is a drop in the bucket to 8 million people. They're not doing it,
No,
Jerry.
of course. If a fighter does 350 pay-per-views in today's era, that's considered a good selling pay-per-view. Well, we got 330 million people in the country. That's like putting an apple seed next to a skyscraper.
Yeah, but
Hardcore
there
boxing fans don't make up for a lot. You got to get the
that's not
interest of the
applicable
casual
to
fan.
Ryan. He can't get the gate up like that, and he hasn't done a pay per
He's
view.
working on it. He's got superstar written all over him. If they keep him
Okay,
busy and they market him right, he's going to be. I guarantee you, he will be able to get fights a lot easier than Devin Haney will, even
okay,
with
we'll
Haney
remain to
having a
be seen.
championship pedgree.
But they don't fight for his ass. Cause I like I said, I had to go back and listen to what I said. I put him down real fiercely, and it was kind of like so weird me saying it because I don't talk about people like that. But I did that for a purpose. I fully expected nobody to come to his rescue, but I had to be prepared just in case they did, and I was. But yeah, they don't. Everybody else come, but you was
Well,
talking
I'm
about
I'm making the counterpoint. I'm not really coming to his rescue. I just calling it like I see it,
no, I'm talking
and I
about
don't
his
I don't
fans,
fault
not you, Jared. Not you,
any
not
fighter for trying to make themselves relevant any way they can. That's the best thing they can do, to get more eyes on them, and that's why they say outlandish shit, and that's why they do the things that they do. They got to try to get the attention of something other than the hardcore fans.
at
If you
this
get the
point,
hardcore
Ryan
fans,
Garcia is a media whore. He's a media whore. That's how I look at him.
well, he may be, but I'm sure he'll take that.
Yeah, he's a media whore, and without reason though, like he ain't did nothing. But I just that's all. I just was reiterating and giving an update. He did finally. Ryan did respond to Mayweather. Mayweather said this shit a couple of days ago. Ryan been saying shit since the fight. Mayweather responded immediately. Ryan it was crickets. So that's why I was bringing it up. And I know people because I had somebody come in and say, "What's the point? Who gives a shit?" And I had to get in there and hey Quentin, I had to click some pots together. Hey Quentin, whenever you click in them pots, boy, I be listening. I had to click some pots together. But Jerry, you were talking about Tyson Fury. You wanted to make a point.
Like I say about Tyson Fury, he's another one. He understands what he's got to do to get himself noticed. A couple months ago, he made a ridiculous statement that he wanted $500 million to fight Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
I watched a video just the other day where now he's saying the fight has to be free. In order for him to fight Joshua, it's got to be free tickets, free everything. Now, you know damn well he does not mean that. Just like he damn well knew wasn't nobody going to give him $500 million to fight Anthony Joshua. And you know, the thing is though, what he understands, like the great Muhammad Ali understood, you got to know how to play with the media and get people's attention, because the more people that hear your name and know who you are, especially the ones that aren't boxing fans, especially them, that is advantageous for you as a fighter. And football and baseball, your performance directly correlates with your pay. You don't have to really be popular. If you're the best pitcher, you're going to get paid like the best pitcher or the quarterback. Boxing is the only sport, well, maybe not the only sport. UFC, to a degree, it plays the same kind of game, where it's not just what your ring accomplishments are. In fact, it's unfair, you know, to boxers, that it's not, because boxing is sports entertainment, much like wrestling, but without the predetermined outcome. And the biggest superstars in boxing always had something going for them that what was indifferent to what they did in the ring. Ali was a real good looking guy. He was a brash talker. He would say all kinds of crazy stuff, and he would act outlandish, and people eat that shit up. Of course, Tyson had his thing. You'd be hard pressed to find a superstar, a bona fide superstar, that didn't have. And a good example would probably be Bernard Hopkins and Marvin Hagler. Both those guys were excellent fighters with very high ring pedigree, but they really didn't have that something else. Bernard tried. And he finally got there. He stuck around so long, and he finally kind of got popularity with his executioner thing. But I think it was really more due to the fact that he stuck around so long that he wound up finally getting the big fights. But for the longest time, when he was the champion, he was getting $100,000 or less for his fights, and he couldn't get fights, and nobody really wanted to fight him. Even though, I mean, look how good he was. Same thing you can say about Marvin Hagler. So it's hard for me ever to. I don't even hate on these guys' dads, because a lot of times what happens, like with Danny Garcia and other fighters, their dads start to become. They get a lot of talk, and people get to hating on the father. But a lot of times the father is taking heat and making noise that's getting the fighter noticed more. So that's probably why Danny don't ever tell his dad, "Hey, look, I know you're my dad and everything, but I want you to calm down and just be my trainer more than any type of mouthpiece," because I think Danny knows that his dad has made him more popular.
Hey, Jerry, I got to hit the commercial. Guys,
Sure,
stay
yeah,
tuned for
Laverne
this
surely is there.
commercial for my sponsor.
I like
Jerry,
that jam.
hey, what
I
you
like
say?
them horns. That's nice.
Yeah, I like. Look, y'all gotta read it. You gotta catch it. I did want to bring up something just a little bit, because I just thought of this. Remember the other day, when we were, it was a panel full of us. I was saying we was making the point, or I was making the point, that these promoters and managers, what they want to do. We always say it's about business. They going by the metrics of what they saw before. And I was like, no, Jerry, they do what they want to do. And Ryan Garcia is the prime example of it. This is all I wanted to say, because I just thought of it. He proves my point. Ryan got paid $2 million for his fight with the old boy. One, Ryan has never sold out an arena or stadium. Two, Ryan has never did pay per view. So there's no metrics to judge him on, and the metrics that they do have to judge him on, they're not they're not justifiably explaining why they pay him so much. And three, he never been a champion. So this is what I mean. This is what I was meaning when I was saying they do what they want to do. You know why they do
Yeah,
it?
but they don't
Hold
throw
on,
away
Jerry.
money.
Hold up, Jerry. Hold up. I'm proving the point now. The reason why they
Okay.
doing it for Ryan is because they looking at, oh my goodness, he has 8 million followers, this, that, and the other. But again, there is no metrics on the books that they can look at and say, this man actually makes me money. So we need to pay him X amount of dollars. There's nothing on there that he's ever done that can justify paying him $2 million. They didn't even give Errol Spence $2 million for Ugas, guaranteed money. So this is what all I was saying is, it's not always about what they saw and what that fighter generated. It's not always just based on that. It's what they want to do. They want to pay this kid the money because he got the 8 million followers, but they not paying him because he generated X amount of dollars, so we need to pay him X amount of dollars. It couldn't have came from that because it never happened. But that's all
Well,
I
I can
wanted to say.
guarantee you this: they're not just giving him $2 million. They're not that stupid. They got metrics that they can justify enough on their own. They're not just going to just hand somebody millions of
Yeah,
dollars just because they like them.
they
Now that
did
doesn't mean
because
that
it's
they
not.
might not invest.
They talked
That
about the
doesn't mean
future, Jared.
what's that?
Didn't happen. That's what you said. It was based on what they know that they making and this, that, and the other. They got to look at all these metrics as far as how they gonna pay you. That never happened for Ryan
Yeah, well, you
to
got to
equal two
realize
million.
DAZN does their metrics are mostly measured by subscriptions. So if they feel that his fresh young face is going to get them subscribers, right there alone, they trust and know that these people that are handling millions and millions of dollars don't don't get to those millions and millions of dollars by giving it away. They don't give it away. I don't care if you're Canelo Alvarez, Floyd Mayweather, or who you are. Nobody is given millions of dollars. Now that doesn't mean that promoters sometimes don't invest in a fighter. Sure they do. That's what Bob Arum was doing with Bud Crawford when he paid Amir Khan $7 million. Amir Khan wasn't worth $7 million at that point in his career, but Bob Arum desperately wanted to get a big name on Bud Crawford's list, and that was really one of the only guys available where he could get it. So he overpaid for him, and when he says he lost money on that fight, I believe that he did, because sometimes they do lose money, sometimes they get it wrong, because promoting boxing is no different than any other business in that you're not going to make big profit every time. Sometimes you're going to break even, and sometimes you're going to lose money.
And
And
that's
yes,
all I
there's
was
been
saying,
fights.
Jared. You guys was saying that it connect, like I took it as all you guys with you and maybe another person was like, no, it's always based on money. They're not gonna, just like you said, they ain't gonna give you 2 million. But in this case, they did. They gave him 2 million because he has never shown. It's not on any record nowhere that he generates that much money.
Okay, well, I'm not going to debate on that because I know better. I know that the promoters don't just give millions of dollars. They don't do it like that. If they did, they would. I mean, they that's what they paid him. But you got to know right now that they felt justified in paying him that for one
Based
reason
on
or
what?
another. They
Based
didn't
on
just come
anything
up
that
with
he
some
made?
arbitrary number and say, "Oh, let's give Ryan Garcia $2 million
But Jared,
just for the shit sake of it."
all I'm asking you, was it based on something he made? Did he show in the past, yeah, I makes this? But yeah, but that
Yeah, I'm
wasn't what
sure it was
happened.
based on something that they came up with.
Based on
They
his
wouldn't have just
followers.
arbitrarily came up with a number and said, if they were just arbitrarily shooting in the dark a number, they would have told them 1 million.
They gave him the benefit of the doubt, and they based it on the amount of followers they got. It was more so
Yeah.
speculation than anything, which I said proved the point that I was just making. All I was trying to say is they do what they want to do. They do what they
Well,
want
of
to
course
do.
they do what
And
they
when
want to do.
when there's somebody else, depending on who you are, they gonna be like, read the sign, read the books, read the rules. We can't give you this because you don't make this. We just
Well, go look
can't
at
do
what
it.
Devin Haney got paid to fight Jojo Diaz, and then go look at how many people were in attendance for that fight in Las Vegas. It was like 4,300 people. That's it, in Las Vegas, fight capital of the world. and look what he got paid.
And Ryan
He was fighting
Garcia's
for that.
tickets were $26. $26. That was the minimum amount that they sold that fight for. $6. That's why I be saying, like it flies in the face of their logic. That's why I say it's hard to take some of them seriously. I'm not doubting from your perspective, Jared, and your perspective is a good one. That is based how you say, but I'm
Well, it's
saying,
logical.
it's illogical. Yes, it is logical. But what I'm saying is, they do what they want to do. Remember Tim Scott? He said he can't. They can't justify paying Bud. Bud have on record that he made 4 million, 4.5 million to be exact, on average per fight. That's his record. That's what he made. You can Google that. That's a known fact. But they feel he can't do that because he never drew in pay per view. You can't even pay him that much. They don't even pay Errol Spence that much. So they won't go pay Bud more than they pay Errol Spence because they feel they justified with the pay-per-view numbers. But here you got Ryan Garcia. And I know it's a different promoter, but there is several promoters out there. But that's why it's hard for me to go by
Well, it's
that
how
logic
Dazen does
because
business.
that
That's the big difference. They do business on subscribers. I've always felt like Dazen, I would say, overpays, but I like to see the fighters get their money if they can get it. But I felt like they overpaid Devin Haney. I felt like they overpaid Andrade.
Andre,
I
Kevin
feel like they
Farmer.
overpaid Golovkin.
Yeah, they overpaid a lot. The zone, when what happened with them is whenever there's a new kid on the block, comes to promoters, that's when the getting is good because they're gonna be shelling out money. They need to build the brand. They want the big come. So people like Tevin Farmer, who if he was at PBC would not have made the money that he made, Boo Boo or anybody else. There's a whole lot of them. Devin too, the deal that he got, PBC wouldn't have gave him that deal.
He
Oscar
got
wouldn't have
good
gave him that
money
deal.
with
Boy wouldn't have
Dazen.
gave him that deal.
I heard, Devin Haney came up in the Mayweather gym. It would seem unnatural that he would have signed with PBC, but he got more money to fight for Dazen.
Because he
And
knew how PBC get down.
yeah,
They don't always pay
but
that.
like I say, he came up in Mayweather's gym, and I personally believe that's why Ellerby is a big part of the reason why he's constantly beefing with Eddie Hearn, because I ain't gonna say they stole Devin Haney, because Haney was free to sign wherever he wanted, but they were able to pay Devin more money, not because Devin had proved that he could sell tickets, because he's kind of proven the contrary, that he can't sell tickets. But they operate on a subscription thing. They sign fighters hoping that people will subscribe and buy their $22 a month subscription. Not so much, they got their own network, so they can work differently,
But now
and
that
they can also pay more money.
they on board, they're pulling back on their money.
Yeah,
Eddie Hearn has said that
I agree
much.
with that.
Eddie Hearn has said that much. This is why they failed. They came out shelling out the money. And anybody who got with them right there in the beginning got paid and got a good deal. And so, that's why I say, in the end of the day, Jared, it is what you say. I agree. It is definitely what you say, and it's logical and rational. However, it's sometimes like what I say, they do what they want to do. And once you show the contrary, but once you show that you'll do what you want to do, can't then just tout it as, oh, it's always just based on numbers, because they prove it when they want to do it. They did that for Ryan. Would they do it for
I
Rashidi
disagree about
Ellis?
it. So
Would they do it
we could
for
go round and
Roach?
round all night.
That dude Roach Jr.? They're not gonna do it for them. I'm not saying, I'm not adding nothing else to it, because I know people gonna say, well, what you trying to say? They only do it for Mexican fighters or white fighters? No, I'm not even throwing that hat in the ring. I'm saying they want to do it for is who they gonna do it for. Is it gonna be a lot? No, it's gonna be far and in between. But make no mistakes. If they want to pay and put somebody up and prop them up, they will. Because in Ryan's case, they definitely spoiled the dude, and they ruined him because of how they was moving him. It's like they put the cart before the horse. And this dude say the crazy shit. Might be doing it on purpose to draw in fans and draw in viewers and this, that, and the other. He keep going back to the same playbook, and people fall for it.
Subscribers.
Ain't nobody falling for it, but people do what they want to do.
Well, I mean, PBC is a big, they're a big player in boxing. They got their own network, which makes them a huge player because big problem with the other promoters is they constantly fighting over the network dates. And that's something that a lot of casual boxing fans and even people that call themselves hardcore boxing fans, part of the business that they know nothing about. A big part of the fights that get put on and the cards and the fighters that make TV, it all plays around the the dates for Showtime and ESPN, and when they're willing to finance and get on board to air a fight. And so the promoters are all constantly vying for that platform so they can showcase their fighters. But DAZN has their own network, their own platform, which makes them a major, major player. That's why the two biggest stars in boxing are currently signed with DAZN. Now, they probably should have some better fighters, but Eddie Hearns hasn't really figured out how to capitalize on the U.S. market. The guys that he's invested in, like say Andrade and Devin Haney, are good fighters, no question about that. But they're not popular fighters. They're not. They're just not popular fighters. So, I think gambled on both of those guys that maybe they could become that, and maybe they will at some point. But if you look at what Devin Haney was getting paid there, it's hard to justify based on the crowds and stuff that he would pull in to pay him like that. But again, they operate on that subscription. And the first guy I ever heard talk about having his own boxing network was Don King. Back when Don King basically got exiled from HBO and Showtime and they didn't want to do business with him, Don was talking about starting his own network. Don King's a smart dude. I don't know why he never followed up on that.
Because he's
But
old and he burned too many bridges, probably.
yeah, but he was fixing to do what DAZN did. He was gonna get his own network. Don got tons and tons of money, and then that way he wouldn't have to deal with the executives at HBO or Showtime or ESPN. And they didn't want to deal with him at that point anyway. So he's the first guy I heard talk about doing that, and he talked about investing in it and having investors come on board just like DAZN has. To help him get it off the ground, but he didn't do it. DAZN either beat him to the punch, or Don, maybe, like you say, he's old. Maybe he just decided, fuck it, I ain't gonna bother with it.
It might be something to that because I do have this feeling. As much as America try to pride themselves on the things they do and don't do, we supposed to be a country that we don't get down with the monopoly type shit. But I think we do. We just find a better way to hide it. The same five people, I'm just throwing a number out there, like same five people on the beer companies. I don't care if it's 50 million beers, it's the same five people. Just like soda companies. That's easy to explain. Soda companies. To me, you got Pepsi, you got Coke. You'll know who owns what, because if you go to Taco Bell, let's say, Taco Bell have Pepsi on it, and they have all these other sodas companies, that you think are different companies, but they all owned by Pepsi. And both sides repeat copy each other. But you got Sprite and then you got Sierra Mist. But then if you go to McDonald's, you're gonna get Coke. And all those sodas on the menu are for Coke products. And fast food restaurants in general, just a fun fact. Fast food restaurants exist to sell soda. That's it. They exist to sell soft drinks. That's why they came into existence, and that's why they're there. They are there more to sell the soft drinks than they are to sell the food. And I've said that before, just with a friend of mine, and they say, that don't even make sense. I say, I'm telling you, this is why they exist. Because that was just one of those tactics or ploys that one of them, Coke or Pepsi, I don't know who did it first, came up with to say, how can I sell my soft drinks? But that's the whole purpose of the fast food restaurant. It's their soft drinks. and but it's the same people. You
Oh
got
yeah,
all these
yeah.
different sodas,
I believe it.
and like, oh, this a new soda company. Cause they be coming up with some sodas, Jerry. I like to try every last one when I can. Like if I see a new one on the market, I be like, I want to try that one. But in the end of the day, when you go back and you backtrack and you backtrack and you backtrack, guess what? It's Pepsi or Coke. Just like
Yeah,
ESPN and Fox Sports. Guess who own that? Disney. Disney own both of them.
yeah,
But they can't be a monopoly. And even the government would get involved when it's like a direct beeline to Disney, to that station or network they own. So they make them break it up, and that's what they did with this latest move. Fox Sports. Fox Sports will soon be Valley Sports. It's coming soon. I don't know when they're gonna make the change in the name, but it's coming. And Disney owns them. They also
yeah,
own ESPN. So don't they got the sports world on lock?
yeah, yeah. Um, soda. If you think about it, if they sell a medium soda for $2, they probably cost 10 cents at the maximum for for the place, Taco Bell, McDonald's, whatever. So this huge profit margin built right in, and the food is salty. So obviously, you're gonna need plenty of stuff to drink to wash it down. You take pizza. I used to work at Domino's way back when Domino's first came out, really back in the mid '80s, and a pizza is real cheap. It doesn't cost much. The most expensive thing on a pizza is the cheese, and but pizza is pretty cheap. I just got a pizza the other night. Was a large pizza with two toppings. It was $22, and I kept thinking about what the manager told me years ago back there at Domino's. The pizzas, they cost less. It's like less than $1. you know, Especially Domino's, a big company, so they buy in bulk, and they get the dough is already pre ready, and the sauce is in the can, and by the time they get done buying that, they break it down. That pizza costs like $1.15 to make, and it sells for 15, 20, 22, $24.
It
So the
is it is
profit
that
margin,
kind of success, Jerry, that's got these
huh?
companies these days feeling like they remember back in the day, Jerry, when 100% turnaround profit was a good thing. Like, yeah, and now these companies feel like they failing if they get 200%. They gotta have 5 and 7, and I think that mindset bleeds over into everything else. Boxing, like how you said, how they want to come up with how they can generate the money. What actually is versus what actually isn't. How they pay their fighters. Because in my head, as I sit here, I can advocate. I be like, to this day, I don't understand why Errol Spence isn't in the double digits guaranteed. Hey, he done enough. I don't understand why PBC, if he's your big
They
guy,
gotta be getting him money. No, I mean, there's no way Earl Spence is coming out of these fights with $1 or $2 million. He's getting a
well,
lot more than that.
I'm not saying he does, but what I'm saying is his guarantee. That's the part I look at. See, Jared, when you just think of yourself, I want my guarantee. I want put my guarantee in this hand and put that speculation shit in the other one. The speculation go either way. It's just that you're guessing your best guess. You can do a fight, and it be like, way up there. But then you can do a fight and it's a dud. You can't really take that home to mama. Like you can't guarantee that shit. But that guarantee pay, I'm talking as far as Earl Spence guaranteed pay. He's not been, he ain't long in the tooth with the pay per views. He's only had how many? Like Mikey,
Three,
Sean,
three
yeah,
or four.
3
I think he's
or
had
4,
four.
right? Ugas, no, Ugas make 4.
Yeah, Ugas would be number 4.
Right. So it's so 4 times, you know, had an opportunity to draw in a whole lot of money. But I'm looking at his guarantee. Why you can't pay that man 10 million or more? I'm not understanding.
I don't know, but I've never heard Earl complain about money. And one thing, and there may be a gag order because that certainly happens in contractual agreements. Uh, but those guys, I don't really hear them complaining about money, except for Adrian Broner. And I did want to speak a little piece on that.
Go ahead.
Broner, you know, he had that thing on ESPN there, and I gotta have his back on one thing, man. That was a low budget ghetto ass little press kickoff that they did there. I mean, they had a sheet hanging in the background, looked like something at your grandmom's house, man. That shit was low budget.
That was low
And
budget even for Brian. I like Brian. He looked like he in his house. That background, he got stuff on the walls and stuff. Yeah, because I saw that. And the boy, Figueroa kind of agreed with Brown. It's like, I see why, why he feel that way, but that's what he
it just seemed to me that they could have did something either in studio or something with a little bit more a little bit more glitz, you know. I mean, yeah, Broner's been out of the picture for a while, and he did kind of lose a lot of his momentum, even though he was losing most of those fights. It just looked low budget as hell, and I think that's what bothered him. I think he expected that it would have been more of a formal type of presser, especially being on Showtime, right there like that. And but Broner again spoke out very harshly against the suits at PBC. And that's a tough dichotomy when a fighter gets in a relationship where they're not working well with the promoter, but they're still contractually obligated. I mean, that's a tough thing, and I don't know. It's hard for me to say specifically what Broner how he should behave, but it just doesn't seem advantageous to be calling your promoter names and talking that type of shit that he's talking when that's the guy that's paying you. You know what I
But they
mean?
do that.
Whether you,
They do the NDA. You're familiar with those. Right? I think it's called NDA, but the gag order, whatever type undisclosed
yeah, yeah,
personnel. PBC makes all of them sign it.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised because there has been fighters that have left the PBC. Regis Progress comes to mind. That don't have good things to say. Broner is still fighting there, but he doesn't have good things to say. But that's the same with any promoter. Bob Arum has fighters, plenty of fighters that have left him. They don't have for whatever reason their business deal didn't work out. Then he's got tons of other fighters fall for him for years, and they don't have bad things to say. And seemingly the same with the PBC. That's just how it goes. All business deals don't always work out, and you can't look past the fact that Broner, having made a lot of money in his young life, he might have a big ego and think he's worth more than what they're paying him, even though what they're paying him might be just what he's worth. In his mind, he probably doesn't see it that way. You know what I mean?
Marlon
But
does bring asses. He's one of those fighters that he got the obtaining casual fans on lock. Like I would say for any fighter, you gotta have certain abilities attracting casual fighters or fans to your event is one of them. And because you don't want to be a boxer that only attract just the people that like you. Like you just have a core. You want to be able to attract everybody. And Broner has that gift. But now if you talk when you're talking Broner, what do you think or what did you think when Jay-Z and them try to offer him, I think it was like 40 million for 5 fights, and he threw that shit up in his face. Basically, his response is something left to be desired. Is he? And this is how he burned his bridges. But he strikes me as a person And I ain't talking bad about bro, because I'm telling you, when he fight, I want to be for him. I think he's an excellent fighter. I think he's a gifted fighter, but it's that mouth. That mouth will close a lot of doors on you. Why I
Yeah,
say
but
he
but
burns
like you just
bridges.
said, it opens a lot of doors too. That very same mouth
Right.
is what got him in all them big fights and right back to back, and he was losing them fights. And that's another thing, Yeah, Broner, just like Fury and Ryan Garcia, they understand that they gotta get attention, and they gotta get the attention of people that don't typically watch boxing, because hardcore boxing fans, we're gonna watch either way, but we just don't add up for that much. But when you can get the other people, that's where the big money comes, and also the big opportunity. And this is why, if you look at Broner at 47 at welterweight, he was in more big fights than any of the other guys. Spence, Crawford, all of them. But Broner got all the fights. He even got the Manny Pacquiao fight, and he was losing those fights. And when I look at Broner's career, the best win that I see on his entire ledger is Paulie Malignaggi.
Oh, at 147, his best fight to me when I became a fan, because I was liking him, but when I was like, yes, was DeMarco, and when he was down there at 135. I was
Yeah.
like, man, he put hands and feet on that kid. And I used to like
Yeah.
DeMarco. DeMarco, I was like, man, can't nobody beat this guy. And Adrian came in there, shit, made it look real easy. I was like, oh my God, that's a boxer. But yeah, he burned his bridges and all that stuff. And it's funny how you say that same mouth is basically what you're saying is a blessing and a curse. Same thing I say about Mayweather. That attitude, that ego, that bravado, that shit is what catapults him to the atmosphere when it comes to motherfucking boxing in that ring. But that same character that he got outside the ring, ugh, something left to be desired when
Yeah,
you're dealing with
I
those.
got a hard time faulting any fighter for self-promoting, and that means talking outlandish, talking shit. If you got the guts to do that, which a lot of these fighters, they don't talk shit because they don't want to. They don't want to eat shit if they get beat. Because that's a hard, prideful pill to swallow. But the reality is people, just general people, they like to hear people talk shit. They just do. The most best press conferences are when the fighters are talking shit to each other and up in each other's face, and shit like that. Now I've watched other press conferences for big fights where both fighters are just mild mannered, and it's like watching fucking paint dry. I mean, it's just hard to watch. Um, you know, you look at when McGregor fought Mayweather. Now that was going to be a big event anyway, simply because who Mayweather was and who McGregor was, that was going to be a huge event. But look at that press tour that they did. I mean, those press tours were almost like a fight. They set up a ring, and they're inside the ring, and it was basically a shit talking show. But I loved it, man. I thought it was entertaining as hell. Even though I knew the fight probably wouldn't be too entertaining, although I was surprised and a little bit surprised that it was entertaining as it was. But I'm not one to blame Mayweather for taking that fight too. Some people hate on him, say, you're an all-time great. What are you doing fighting? What are you doing fighting this guy? Never had a professional boxing match. Well, $160 million. That's why I'm fighting this guy. That's got Mayweather. I've heard him say a couple times he made more money fighting McGregor than he did Manny Pacquiao, and I can believe that. That was a huge event when he fought Conor McGregor. It was just massive.
And hold on, let me
And
ask you about that then. Did you think that Conor really did believe he was going to beat Mayweather? I really thought that he really believed that shit.
yeah, I'm sure he probably in his mind, just as a fighter. I mean, we can't neglect that McGregor is a championship fighter and a super tough guy. Now, was he a boxer? No, but one of his best attributes in the UFC was his hands. he was a far better boxer than the UFC guys. They train boxing as part of their what they do too, but they train all different martial arts. But they also train, they call it striking, but it's basically boxing. And McGregor, a lot of people don't know this. He landed more shots in that fight than Manny Pacquiao did against Floyd Mayweather.
You think
And
that's
people,
more so him or Mayweather was carrying him? Because I thought
well,
Mayweather carried
this is
him.
what I know about Floyd Mayweather from the very first time I seen him fight until the last time. He's not one to give away shots. He said throughout his career, "I'm not about getting hit. When you get hit, that just shortens your career." So I don't think he would give McGregor shots because
At the end
when
of
you're
his
getting punched
career,
in the face, it doesn't, the punch, your face doesn't know if it's coming from a boxer or if it's coming from a UFC fighter. No, he snuck in a few good shots on
I
Mayweather.
think he carried him. You know
He's
why?
awkward.
Because Mayweather didn't fight his normal way. Mayweather was squared up. He was not fighting Mayweather s at all. So I think he was fighting him like he sparring. I think he carried him because when he turned it up, if you go back and watch the epilogue, because you don't hear the shit live when you watch it. The epilogue catch him coming to the corner smiling saying, "It's time." And as soon as he
Yeah,
said
well,
that,
he knew.
turned it up.
What I see Mayweather do is what I see him do in all of his fights. He let McGregor get tired, and he knew he was going to get tired, and he played it safe, relatively safe, until McGregor got tired. The first three rounds were pretty competitive because McGregor is a lot bigger than Mayweather. He's awkward. That's another thing. He's very awkward in how he delivers that punch, and I think he's a southpaw. So he was able to sneak a few good shots on there. Wasn't nothing Mayweather couldn't handle. And yes, about round four, Mayweather started uncharacteristically walking him down a little bit more than what you typically see the welterweight Mayweather do. The lightweight Mayweather would walk fighters down. Floyd Money Mayweather didn't oftentimes walk guys down, but he started to walk Connor down and yeah, probably making himself a little bit more hittable. But I don't think he gave him shots because that's just not what Mayweather does. He's not going to give any fighter free shots to his head. But I will agree that he walked to him a lot more, especially after round four, and he was sensing that he was getting tired. If you spend enough time in a ring, like Mayweather, you can sense all these things about an opponent, and plus they knew going in that these UFC fighters, that's a big problem. They don't oftentimes have the stamina to fight 3 12-minute rounds.
They be tired
You
at the
know,
end of their fights and they go like 25 minutes. As in boxing, that's
they
36.
go 25 minutes and it's 5 minute rounds, but for 4 minutes of that round, you could be on your back laying still. You know what I mean?
That
And what
shit
they
is still
find is,
exhausting. I watched what's it called, Bellator. I can't get with MMA just yet, but Bellator, and it only because I'm a little squeamish, I guess. That's some fighting. I ain't gonna say boxing or is more real than MMA or vice versa. What I would say is, dang, that the shit that they do. Like maybe I'm just more accustomed to the boxing room. I don't like when they stomp them, when they bowl them, hit them when they down in the head. I be like, man, you gonna kill somebody. But
I know, I know.
oh,
I'm the same way, man. I watched several fights, guys just got a guy around the neck and just choke him into unconsciousness, and you just see the guy just turn red, then blue, and just choked out.
yeah,
That
and when
shit
they do
used to be
that,
illegal. It used to be illegal in the United States. They wouldn't allow it. They had it in Asia and all over the place, but we didn't always allow it. And I remember the first time I seen it was back, I don't know, probably, I don't know, maybe the early '90s, late '80s, probably early '90s, and it was called shoot wrestling. The UFC didn't exist yet, but they called it shoot fighting, and they aired it over. It was a card over in Asia, but it was on pay-per-view, and I remember buying it and thinking, "Damn, this shit looks brutal." And then a couple months later, Vegas, they let it happen in Vegas, and then the cat was out the bag. Once they seen that it could make money, uh, the cat was out the bag, and they started allowing it in the U.S. But to me, I don't know if society, I look at the bigger picture when I watch the UFC and how it lacks. To me, it lacks. I don't want to say it lacks sportsmanship because I know the guys are mostly sportsmen, but like you said, when you can punch a guy and he's clearly unconscious and you can just jump down with all your weight and put your knee into his unconscious face, there's something
Barbaric about
unsportsmanlike.
that shit. That's what it
Yeah, yeah,
is. I seen
yeah. When
somebody
you can
get
just
kicked
choke
in the
a guy that
stomach.
cleared that almost to death, something that's a little too carnal. That's why they done away with like public hangings and shit. Uh, Corporal punishment, is because
They,
it desensitized people.
I seen it kicked in the stomach and violently up. Like just to throw up alone was fucking me up. But the way he led to, like, where you kick him in the stomach that conjured up all that shit. But let me let me give an update right quick. So y'all heard that I know I did a couple of days ago when I was talking about Zerto Ramirez writing to everybody, but Santa Claus trying to get in with these guys. And I think you said, Jared, that Bivol would be better off just waiting for the winner of Canelo and Triple G, because we know a lot of us feel like Canelo gonna win. Not that we want that, but I'm not a Canelo fan, but I think he will beat up Triple G because I seen Triple G age. But we thought that it was gonna be a fight with Bivol and Buasi. I had put that out, so I'm seeing something on the news right now saying the IBF just ordered Buasi to fight Pascal in the title eliminator. So whatever Buasi was going to have Bivol, I guess that will be no more. So I just want to update everybody because I did put it out like, oh no, it's Buasi and Bivol coming up. But go ahead, Jerry. My bad.
Nah, I mean, yeah, we spoke on that the other night. I'm down with Bivol fighting any of those other guys in the division that are considered the top guys. But let's face it, he really wasn't fighting them before, and now he's got the potential of a life-changing payday. And so for me, it's not the time to fight him now. Get that payday, win, lose, or draw, and then with the way he beat Canelo in the first fight, there's every reason to believe that he should beat him again. I'm
They
not
said
certain
they
that he
said that he
will.
didn't get paid though. They said that they and I don't know how true it is. Maybe Jerry, that they didn't give Bivol his money or it's on hold or something. I don't know if
Well,
it's
there
got
was
something
some
to do
kind
with
of
that war.
technicality there.
Hmm?
You can believe he going to get the money. There was some type of technicality, but he got the money, I'm sure, or else you'd be hearing him saying that he didn't get the money. Um, it's just, that's the other thing, there's just so much shit out there. Like when you talk about Jay-Z and 40 million, we don't know for sure if that's true. When
No,
I
we
hear
do
stuff
know
like
that's
that,
true. We do know
when
that's
I hear
true.
stuff like that, I pay it very little attention because a lot of times it's unvalidated.
But this is why it's
Unvalidated.
validated because it came out their mouths. We know it's
Yeah,
true
but
too
people lie
because
and people fabricate and embellish and you
Adrian
know.
came out and denied it and said why he don't want it and said the numbers. So I mean, it must be true. You know what I'm saying? I think that was proven true. That wasn't a lie that he was offered that because Adrian was trying, just like the zone tried to offer Adrian stuff. He didn't want that either. I bet you
Yeah,
Adrian
well, it doesn't make
go
much
back.
sense. I go by a creed that when something doesn't make sense, it's not true. Where's Adrian Broner? Where would he get off turning down $40 million?
He
You'd have to be
did.
pretty stupid to do that.
He did, and he said it out his own mouth. He told Jay Z something to the effect of "Go eat a dick" or "Eat a dick." Or, I don't know. He insulted him. He
The
did.
reality is he probably contractually obligated the PBC and couldn't accept the
Yeah,
deal
that could be
because
true.
that's usually the case. Um, you know, you know. But like I say, to me, so much stuff is hearsay. It's hard for me to pontificate on stuff, because a lot of times when you find out the real story, there's things that people leave out. Like Broner might have said this and that, but he didn't tell you this, and he intentionally left that part out, or the other side intentionally left that part out, and it's for me difficult to pontificate on. But also regarding Canelo and Golovkin, I think that fight is going to be just as close as the other two were. Golovkin showed me in his last fight he was in tremendous condition, and he did to that Asian dude who's a tough guy and was fighting in front of all of his home fans where he's a hero. That guy was trying hard, and Golovkin just beat him down like he does pretty much everybody else,
So you
not
just
named Canelo or Danny Jacobs. Of course, Jacobs went the
see
distance
the
and
age,
close
Triple
fight.
G,
Yeah,
and
I
the
think that
age.
I think it's going to be a great fight, just like the other two, and I think it's going to be close. I really do.
But
Especially,
Jared, you didn't see no aging in Triple G in the Marauder
well,
fight.
people automatically, because they know his age, assume right away that age is caught up to him, and maybe it has. How could I say for sure? Uh, but what I seen in the Murata fight didn't show me that. He was in tremendous condition. You could clearly see, not for a 40-year-old guy, he was in great shape for any year-old guy. He fought at a high pace, high punch output, and he basically fought the same fight he always fights. He gets hit in all of his fights, but he does like Spence does. He keeps walking you down and pounding on you until you can't take it no more. And he was older than his opponent, but he did to him just what he does to everybody else. He walked him down and beat on him until he couldn't take it anymore. Canelo Alvarez, a real tough guy with a real good chin, and he, just like Danny Jacobs, he was able to take what Golovkin dished out, but it's still. I had both their first two fights draws. People have spent hours and hours debating who won those fights, and I've watched both of those fights probably 10 times each, and with all my experience watching fights, I just don't know how you can pick a clear winner in either one of those fights. They were just so close. There was no knockdowns. Neither
Mm.
fighter really hurt the other fighter, like where you could see they were wobbled or buzzed, and it was tit for tat. It was, Golovkin would land good shots, and then Canelo would come back on him and land good shots. People automatically want to give Golovkin the first fight because he was the one coming forward. But I know from watching boxing, just because you're coming forward doesn't mean that you're winning. And Golovkin was coming forward. That's his style to come forward. But in the second half of the fight, he was getting hit with a lot of big shots. Probably the series of the biggest shots landed in either fight was in that first fight in the second half, where Canelo was timing him, and Golovkin was walking into those shots. Now, conversely, in the second fight, Canelo made Golovkin go backwards, and I think he deserves a little bit of credit for that because nobody else had been able to do that. But what he got in return for being the aggressor was getting punched right in the mouth with the stiffest middleweight jab I've ever seen. Golovkin, especially in the second half of that fight, was popping Canelo right in his mouth consistently with a super hard jab. And that's what Canelo got for coming forward. So just because the fighter's coming forward definitely does not mean that they're winning. They have to be aggressing effectively. And if you're catching shots coming forward, then that's not aggressing effectively. I thought both fights were a draw, and barring, a knockout, I think this third fight going to be similar to the first two.
Wow.
Now, if he slipped and he slipped so far that it's non-competitive, then we're probably going to know. If
So,
Canelo knocks him out, it's probably safe to say, well, Golovkin was too old.
so we know that boxing is mental. So for me, at this fight, I felt that I saw Triple G aging. I not like literally, but I see the aging because there was things that he could have did that Triple G normally would do. But when I start seeing fighters who don't never really hesitate, start to hesitate, and enough for us with Triple G that the mute is a hard hitting person and made Triple G hesitate. I was just trying to think of all the fight, but he hadn't been active for so long, or that I saw. So for me, aging is working against Triple G, and as far as Canelo, the loss, because Canelo is so prideful, has such a big ego. His ego is easy to bruise. You know, Caleb Plant
Yeah, but
had
that's
fucking.
exactly what could cost him
Oh,
if he gets in there trying to redeem his loss against Bivol. If he gets in there and does that against Golovkin and becomes overeager and makes mistakes, that could easily cost him in that fight. That's another thing. Golovkin he came off a long layoff, so as boxing fans, we should recognize that yeah, the first few rounds against Murata, he looked a little ring rusty. Not too bad, not for me, not too bad.
you gonna
But
see.
I could see a little ring rust there. But hell, the guy hadn't fought in a long time. But that's why
But
they're making this fight too, and they're not going straight to Bivol because when Davin they signed Golovkin to like an $80 million deal, and there might be the biggest example of where I don't know if they've gotten that money back
I don't think
on
they did it all.
Golovkin.
But what I was trying to say about the flaw in Canelo is that mental aspect of the game, because he did lose to Bivol easily. And what Bivol showed is, if you're in there with Canelo and you can take a punch relatively okay, because Canelo ain't the hardest hit in the world. He hits hard. But if you can move around, and Floyd showed that, Lars showed that. If you think about Amir Khan was having some success before he got caught. You know what I'm saying? But that's what Bivol showed. And so I don't think he's gonna change up who he is overnight, but he gotta know, and I stand in front of Canelo, that toe to toe shit, mano a mano. He gotta move around. He have to move around a little, show some different angles or something. But Triple G also knows how to get under Canelo skin, because Canelo is very sensitive. And we start talking about things he really don't like. Because if Caleb Plant would have had some power with his punches, I think he'd have beat Canelo ass.
Well, they might have, but that's the thing about Canelo. To me, when I talk about Spence and Golovkin having the exact same style, when I watch Canelo Alvarez, to me, he has the same style as Tank Davis. He's a puncher. He's a short dude with short arms, and boxing is never going to be probably, even though they both Tank and Canelo can box, but boxing is they're relying on their punch, and that's what Canelo biggest mistake I think against Bivol was. It was very clear he was gunning for a KO the whole fight. He was loading up on his shots way too much, and Bivol might be a lot better than what we think thought that he was. Even though people knew that he was pretty good, but he didn't have that many fights, and he really hadn't fought. I think Joe Smith might have been the best guy he fought. I'm not sure, but people knew he was good, but he might be a whole lot better than 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 what we thought. And that happens a lot with boxers because not everybody gets the same opportunities to prove how good they are. And Bivol, he hadn't really gotten a lot of opportunities, and the division is not really a bunch of talent there. But he got the opportunity against Canelo, and he rose to the occasion. Some people thought Canelo won 3 rounds. I don't know. I didn't see it. To me, it was a shutout. But I have to also add that I think Canelo can beat Bivol. Uh, but he's going to obviously have to come with a different game plan. Fighters do have bad nights. This is any fighter in the history of boxing. You know me, I'm not one to make excuses. I don't like it when fighters make excuses, and they all do it. But I do know they're human, and they do have bad nights. You talk about bubble guts. I mean, there's been definitely recorded, cases fighters talk about for whatever reason, the day of the fight, because they mess with their dehydration a lot, and they diuretics and different things. And a lot of times, imagine you got a case of the bubble guts and you're fighting that night.
Mm.
You know that's a fucked up
It's a
dichotomy.
recipe for disaster. That is.
Well, of course it is, and this happens a lot more than what people know
Exactly.
because fighters are constantly messing with their hydration, trying to make weight, and part of hydration, and having diarrhea is being underhydrated or overhydrated, one or the other, because they're both bad. Um, And so
and
my point
let
is,
me
fighters have bad nights sometimes, and there's plenty of cases where they came back, fought the same guy, and they beat him.
let me say this right quick, Jared. Speaking of what Jared's saying, like you have a bad night, suppose you have bubble guts. All anybody who's into boxing or knows somebody into boxing, there's one food item I would suggest that that person eat that day. If you're a person like Floyd, because I don't think Floyd ever had a weight problem. He was probably one of those guys that won't never really gain weight. Plus all that exercise he was, you know what I'm saying? Um,
Hmm.
so you got fighters out there that's like that, and then you got fighters look great, look in shape and all that, but can gain weight. Like I told you guys, Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, you never really seen him roly poly or nothing like that. If Keith would blow up in between fights. There's a lot of people have that problem. Keith can fucking eat. I'm telling you, I saw that with my own eyes. But this food item that I suggest, it's like taking a multivitamin. That's exactly what it's like. Because everything you can find in the multivitamin, find in this food item. If you guess the motherfucking potato, I'm not talking about a sweet potato, a white potato. If your fight is going down at 9 o'clock, or at 9 o'clock, you know how the fights come on here on the East Coast. They start at 9 o'clock for us, and the main event be like getting close to 11 o'clock hour, maybe night sometimes. Um, I would suggest that you cut off your eating around at least 5 hours. But me personally, I would do it around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon if you're gonna fight at 9. But the food item I would suggest is potato and eat it how you want. Like you can cut up some. I'm just look, this is a segue, Jared. You can cut up some potatoes, raise it thin, eat it with the skin, and everything. You can use uh if you want to be completely vegan about it, you can use extra virgin olive oil. Yeah, I like country crock butter, or margarine or whatever, which ain't real butter. Cut it up, slice up some onions real good. I slice up red, green, orange, and yellow uh peppers, and then you just throw that in the pot. Like I'm talking about raised thin, like almost looking like a potato chip. Cut them thin like that. Throw them in the pot. And this one potato, it don't even have to be a big potato, a normal sized potato. Eat that shit around about 3 o'clock. If you're a fighter, one, you ain't gonna get the bubble guts. Don't get up eating no bullshit in the morning. Your meal should be simple, either complex carbs or vegetables. That's what you should eat that day. But I would say eat a potato. That potato gonna last a long time, believe it or not. And it's almost like you just took a multivitamin. Because all the minerals and nutrients that's found in a multivitamin is found in the potato. Potatoes are the one items that carry all of that. They help with if I say this word wrong, I apologize. Sanitary, I can't even say it all the time. But damn Alzheimer, all that shit, dementia. This is why the military serve potatoes. I don't care what military, American, foreign countries, the potato is on the menu. Damn near every fucking meal. Bucks the 212 is in the building. Welcome to the building. I guess it's King, but I'm not understanding the word that you type. So I don't know what you mean by that. Don't get nasty up in here, or I'm gonna have to block you. But go ahead, Jerry. I'm sorry.
Um, yeah, that's something I think about with fighters. If you went out into a big auditorium filled with people and you were just going out there to give a speech, you'd probably be nervous as hell. Most people would. Imagine the moxie it takes to go into a big building full of people and you're going to fight. You're going in there to fight somebody. That's one of the things that is a special breed. Why they say fighters are a different breed. I believe that. They get conditioned to be that, and a lot of times the fighters will tell you that they feel most comfortable in the ring because that's what they're used to. They're not comfortable with the crowds. They're not comfortable with a lot of them with press and the press demands. Oh, you talk about Mayweather not losing weight. Here's a little factoid for boxing casuals. 90% of fighters in any weight class, they walk around a minimum 30 pounds heavier than where they fight, and that's at a minimum in most cases. Now, some maybe it's just 20 pounds. Some it's going to be 40 pounds, 50 pounds. Now, of course, they're not in shape at that rate, but very few fighters really in the history of boxing are what you call naturals. And Mayweather, once he settled it at welterweight, was a natural, just like Golovkin is a natural middleweight. And usually, a fighter that's a natural, they're usually some of the best fighters in the history of boxing because obviously, and you know about weight gain and weight loss, they're not yo-yoing. They're not going up and down in between fights. I think Mayweather, I heard him say one time during his whole welterweight career, he walked around at 153. He didn't even have to cut weight. Just training for a fight, he would come down. You see what I mean? Most of these fighters, when they go into camps, they got 8 weeks to lose a ridiculous amount of weight. And so the camp, instead of being about focusing on strategy and technique, it's focused on losing weight and cutting weight and dehydrating and things like that.
Which is
I'm not a big fan of fighters staying at lower weight classes. I think, it's more hurtful than harmful. I don't blame Ryan for moving up. I don't blame Devin for talking about moving up, or Shakur. If you ask me, they all need to move up.
But which is hard on the body, guys. And these men, y'all are filling out your bone density increases as you get older, like early 20s to late 20s. And so when as a coach, like I said, I mostly work with children, but at night I stuck around with the other coaches to work on actually with the professional fighters we had, and I were actually people who are aspiring to be a professional fighter. I could tell you, they'll walk in, and the first thing you do is you put them on the routine, right? So they'll do their routine repetitively every time they come to the gym. If you're new to it, it 2 days a week. This is how we did it. 2 days a week. We was in the gym 4 days a week. But sometimes, like I said, we had professionals that would come through Fridays and Saturdays. So I would work with them. Some people have been on Showtime. I've worked with some of them guys. But the average person, 2 days a week, you have to prove that you're worthy enough to go 4 days a week, because 2 of the days out the week there, we do sparring, right? Well, you're not getting in the ring, period, unless you're ready. So what they do is, because I was wondering, how do they pick the weight? And that's one thing that I was mostly focused on. Like, how y'all come up with that shit? So when they come in and you put them on a routine, by the time they get worthy enough to go 4 days a week, because then we're gonna have them sparring, they would have lost a lot of weight. I'm gonna tell you guys this too. Out of every exercise team that I've heard of or seen, and I know different sports calls for different things. And I'm retired military, so I know this for a fact, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Boxing is the one exercise routine where I see weight kill off motherfuckers. Girl, you hear me? Like, oh my God, it melt like they butter or something. I've seen women come in there, the women who got like maybe a small waist, but their thighs is oversized. You'll see this mostly with black folks. Thighs be oversized. And no matter what they do, they can't get rid of them fucking thighs. So it's a nightmare. A lot of guys don't realize, because when she goes to buy her clothes, she gotta buy bigger size clothes fit over her thighs, which will almost always never fit in the waist. So the clothes even look funny on. And I seen a person come through like that in 2 weeks, already losing. And she was just coming twice a week. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, I know boxing routine It's nothing but cardio, but it's a different type of cardio. When you hear cardio, you think running on the tread or just always just running outside on the road. No, jump roping, just hitting the bag, all kinds of boxing routines that you practice repetitively, they peel weight off your ass. And you
No
ain't
doubt.
even gotta go hardcore.
I mean, look how they train. I mean, look at Mayweather. Mayweather used to throw like a couple thousand punches on the mitts. He just nonstop, just pop, 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 pop. Not hard, but just steady, just thousands of punches, and to the point of exhaustion. And jumping rope ain't no joke, man.
Dang,
I was jumping rope not that long ago, and I forgot how
but
strength.
you was a
Boxers
kid.
are some of the most highly conditioned athletes, even though a lot of them get out of condition in between fights, and that's, to me, if I was a prize fighter, I would do everything I could to not do that. I see that the guys that stay in shape between fights are usually some of the most successful fighters, and fighting at your natural weight, so you don't have to dehydrate nor overhydrate, because that's just as bad. And a
Yeah,
lot of
or
people,
over
yeah,
workout. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people don't understand. I had a conversation with a guy a couple of years ago when I told him, and we were talking about, I think, James Toney, who was notorious for, going way, way, way above his fighting weight, and and when you dehydrate to get down to that weight, and yeah, I mean, of course they're working out, but they're doing a lot of dehydrating. They're taking diuretics. They're sitting in saunas. They won't even use Visine if they think it's going to add a ounce to their weight. And then you get on the scale totally dehydrated 24 hours before the fight. You're in a weakened state 24 hours before the fight, because a lot of people, don't really understand what it means to truly be dehydrated. You can die from that shit.
So good.
And oh yeah, and people get put in the hospital a lot of times, and they find out the reason what was wrong with them was they were dehydrated.
And it
And but
causes
then
damage. Causes
but
damage.
then
Like,
in the 24 hours in between the weigh-in and the fight, that rehydration is a critical thing, because what the way I understand what some fighters have told me is, when you get off the scale, even though you're dehydrated, you don't feel thirsty. And but they tell you, you got to start drinking these electrolytes. You got to start replenishing, your electrolytes and stuff. And so they basically start drinking because they just know that they have to. But what happens is, after a couple hours, they start getting really thirsty. Now the body is like, it's like that feeling where you can't get enough to drink, and you can easily overdo it. And what it feels like to be overhydrated is, if, let's say, you went to the 7-Eleven and you got you one of them big Gatorades, like the gallon Gatorade, and you drank it as fast as you could. Let's say even if it took an hour, and you downed that whole gallon of Gatorade, watch how your stomach feels after you do that. You ain't going to be feeling like fighting nobody, because you're going to be bloated, and it's
I
not a good feeling.
you're gonna be feeling tight. And Jared,
Yeah.
this is why I say with my program, I know a lot of people, I explain what's the difference for me with them. I see with everybody else, and it works for me too, but not in the same rate that it works for everybody else. Because this is what I was dealing with. You know, how people try to lose weight to make weight for the fight. I was like, man, I can't imagine going through that. And then you got to turn around and do one of the most arduous thing in the world, and that's get in that ring and fight. And so, uh, are damaging your body when you dehydrate and all that. So I came up with a program where you're healthy as can be as you drop in weight. The weight loss is more so a byproduct of what we're doing. And I have a reasoning for why you do it the way you do it. It's not new information, because they tell you everything. They've already always tell you everything. Like
Do you know about a technique? Now, I've dieted different diets and things over the years, and different lifestyles in regards to eating. But the best success I ever had, sustainable success, was doing what they call proper food combining. Do you know about that?
yeah, see, Jared, that's I'm glad you say that. I do, but how I learned it inadvertently. And that's what I try. I like how you said it because I've never read a book about it.
Yeah.
Me hearing it is what you just said, but I kind of found this out accidentally. I was trying to find food that gives me results or address issues instead of taking a pill. I went from 16 pills per day that I had to take per day to live
Right.
to now I take six. Yeah, six. I take 6 pills from 15, two of which are my thyroid pills. I have no choice. I can either want to live or die. So I have to take the thyroid. The other four are blood pressure pills.
Right.
And they don't even know why I got high blood pressure. So I'm just saying, I think we know, but they're not gonna do that as to find out. It's something to do with my conditions. I'm lacking certain elements of your body, like certain enzymes I don't have. I wasn't born with, and most of you guys have. And so that limits, like I'm gonna tell you the one without going in depth. I'm G6PD. A lot of people are G6PD. They don't even know it. I found out going through the military. It's not that big a deal, but it is because basically people who are G6PD, that's good when you live in malaria type areas like in Africa or whatever. This is something that Africans, this is a gene that they have. And if you live in that type of existence, yeah, it's good to be G6PD. Because basically what they're saying is I would be hard pressed to catch malaria, no matter what. The fucking mosquito could land right on me and bite me 5 times. I'm not catching it. Versus you go there, it bites you, got it. So that's a good thing, but in the bad thing because some enzymes I don't have. Like I don't have the enzyme to digest or have different beans. Not all the bean family, but some beans I just can't eat because it's not like if I ate it today I'm gonna just croak and die. But what I have, I cannot be on a regimen of eating those beans. And beans are good for you. It's a good source of protein, but I
Yeah.
can't do it because my body don't digest it. I don't have the enzyme to break it down, and so forth and so on. But there's plenty of enzymes out there that people don't talk about, and we as just regular people don't really know. And I'm lacking a whole lot of them. So I have to be real particular about what I eat. And so I was like, you know what? In order for them to make a pill, Jerry, they had to. Nobody's that creative. Say, let me make a pill for this. If they never seen it done naturally. And so once I got that in my head, I was like, well, okay, if I need this or I need that, and I need to address this or that, I'm sure it's a food out there that does that. So I would study food. Every food that I eat, I'd study it. I investigate it, I check out the properties, what it offers, just like when I just told y'all about the potato. Potato is nothing but a multivitamin. So when you hear people say, don't eat no white potato, sweet potato is better. Yes, sweet potato got more nutrients, or anything darker is going to be better than anything lighter. However, white potatoes are very good and is a must in your daily routine because it helps with a whole lot of things like
Right.
dementia, Alzheimer, sedentary. I can't
Well,
never say that word right, but it does.
proper proper food combining. I read a books called Fit for Life. It was written by a husband and wife. They're food scientists and they're hippies from the '60s. They're beatniks and really the science of it is not really nothing new. It's basically a high fruit and vegetable diet. They're the two people that wrote the book are vegetarians, and so they don't eat red meat. But they don't say that you can't eat red meat. But what the guy says, what their big premise is with food combining is this, and you can try this yourself. And one thing I liked about the book is every point that they made, they would give you an exercise to do where you could see just what they were saying by firsthand account. And basically, what it is you can eat a piece of steak, but when you eat it, you got to eat it with a vegetable and like a salad. You
Yes.
don't add a starch. You don't add a potato or a bread. Now, if you want to have a baked potato, let's say, like you say, they're very good for you. You can have that baked potato, but you eat it with a vegetable and a salad. You don't eat it with meat, so you don't mix the proteins with the
Right.
carbs. And the guy, one of the first example he said is, go eat a steak dinner, the type that you would like. You would sit down to where you got a steak, you got a potato, you got a dinner roll, vegetable probably in a salad, but you got that dinner roll and you got that potato, and eat that meal and see how incapacitated you are because Queen, I know you're well aware that digestion is a very strenuous process to the body. It's a physical process, and that's why when we overindulge, we hit the couch because we don't realize that digestion is taking the type of energy it's taking, but it is, and that's why you get tired. But if you eat that same meal, you eat that steak, and you eat it with broccoli and a salad, it won't make you tired,
And it might
and
not hurt you as far as like calories, empty calories.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it just flat won't make you
yeah,
tired. And when I did that, my wife and I both done it. And me, being male, and I got a pretty high metabolism. At least I did. Uh, I usually lose weight no matter what diet I try. Initially, you're going to lose weight if you cut out a major food group. You're going to lose weight. Any of these diets,
slight
like they had that one.
changes, light
Yeah, they
changes.
had that one diet where the diet basically said you could eat all the sausage and bacon that you want, but you can't eat oranges and apples. That's
And
just
Jared, and
crazy.
you know what? To prove your point even more, I've never read that book, but this is what I inadvertently stumbled on. It's funny that you be saying it because I was like, "What am
Yeah.
I doing?" I seen it in action. I practiced it 5 years. I'm telling you guys about it now, but this is after 5 years of me helping folks in my neighborhood or around that I knew back home, and most importantly, in the boxing, because we had a fighter who had it was on a Sunday, and they kept weighing him when he got close to the fight. He actually fought on Showtime a while back. He hasn't been back to forever. He must have got paid good. He lost the fight. But anywho, he had to lose 20 pounds by that Friday. This was Sunday. And so I have been talking to him all along. I've been saying, that sometimes people gonna take your advice and sometimes they won't. Sometimes people be like, they'll come to you and be like, hey, can you help me out? So this particular time, and I'm not giving myself credit because it takes you, the individual, to do. So I have been always talking to him about this. So he wind up, you know, following what I had been saying, and homeboy lost weight. He wasn't dehydrated. It's real weight. It's like you said, there's no secret out there, but the information is put out. Don't we don't consume it in a way that we connect dots. So like even with eating meat, a lot of people don't understand that the average meat that you eat takes about 7 days plus. Everybody's different to just digest. That ain't good. This is why they tell you don't eat red meat. If red meat hurts you, and I know amongst the black community, red meat really hurts us, but we love it, and we constantly.
Well, you
So,
know what they said about red meat? The guy in the book says if you look in the human mouth, there's 32 teeth in the human mouth. All of them are flat except for four. You got four sharp ones. So what this means is that's about how much meat you should have in your diet. And you look at a lot of other countries around the
four
world,
ounces.
when the way they eat meat, it'll be a little piece, like a 4 ounce piece of meat
Okay,
with a meal.
yeah, that's what they
We've,
say. If you're gonna eat
yeah,
meat, what's your dinner for? Cut, weigh it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, look no further right than the human mouth because, and if you look in the mouth of a prehistoric man, there's no pointy teeth. All the teeth are flat, just like a cow's teeth. Now, a cow has all flat teeth and he never eats meat his whole life, yet he has big muscles and big, strong muscles. You look in a lion's mouth, the lion has nothing but pointy teeth and he doesn't eat any vegetables, he just eats meat. But you look in the human mouth and you see a mix, but it's mostly flat teeth. That's
And
because for years and years we weren't that effective at hunting, so meat really
well,
wasn't a part of our diet. But
well,
as we evolved,
we're not designed to be carnivore. We can
huh?
do it. Our bodies are resilient. They're not
Yeah,
designed to
well,
be
we
carnivore.
evolved to become better hunters, and so we weren't just eating berries and roots and shit that we could find. We got to a point where we could better hunt, and so meat became part of our diet. And God, in His infinite wisdom, put us a few teeth in our mouth that are instrumental in tearing meat. That's the incisors. So
Hey now,
that's what the guy said in the book. It makes perfect sense to me. You can have red meat, but you want to keep it a small part of your diet. What they
yeah,
really push is high fruit and vegetables, which is
complex
nothing new
carbs,
about that.
complex carbs.
Yeah, there's nothing new about the science
Exactly.
of that, fruits and vegetables, and they're big on juicing also, which I am
Right.
too. I think juicing is
But that's pretty much
miraculous.
what I do, Jerry. I combine foods to make that combustion, that chemical reaction. And sometimes when you combine the foods, it depends on what you're trying to address. That's why my program is called Finding the Healthy You. I'm not really a program to say, oh, we're gonna lose weight, but because of the way I designed my program, and everybody can have their program. I don't want y'all to think that I invented something because I didn't. The information is out there, but like Jerry said, if you don't know it, like how you can combine a certain foods to get a certain result, you wouldn't know it. Even though the information is out there, you just didn't connect the dot. Like malnutrition. If I say malnutrition, and I tried this, I'm telling you, I'm so into science that I'm always doing my own personal scientific experiments. Right? So I go home and I ask a lot of my family, what you think a malnutritious person look like? And I just wanted to hear their description. And they always come back with some bony ass motherfucker that, like I don't even want to use that joke, but just some bony ass person, and who hasn't eaten all the forever, or maybe got the balloon belly or whatever. And I'd be like, no, a malnutritious person could be a person that eats damn near every other hour. The point of it is it's Latin for no nutrition. So when you don't put nutritional stuff in your body, then your body is starving, and that makes you malnutrition. You can be 600 pounds and be malnutritious. So, it's that's what I mean by, like, even though we know what malnutrition is and what it means, some kind of way it ain't translating to. We have a different depiction of how things are supposed to go, even counting calories. It seems simple, but then you have a lot of people say, "Why it ain't working?" So when they come to me, I talk, with them through email, and I'd be like, I ask pertinent questions, and because I want to know, you know, if however comfortable you are to tell me this, and I keep everybody's private. I ask them simply, what are your major issues you address? If somebody tell me it's just weight, and I get a lot of females that tell me that it's just the way I just want to whatever, and
To
I be like,
all of you who have
we
been
have to
learning to
find
trust,
out.
it's time.
We have to find out why you have this weight problem. So, what is your issue other than weight? Because what we get ready to do, dropping pounds, and you dropping it without doing no exercise, and it's real weight. It ain't, and I don't be into that water weight bullshit. You should never want to lose water weight because that's where your electrolytes come in. 5 or 50. If you lose electrolytes, you're gonna do one or two things: have a stroke or a heart attack. But see, we know these things, and we don't connect the dot. So my little side hustle is finding the healthy you. And I'm glad we're talking about this because Sunday I'm gonna be doing a show because of all the emails. The show is mostly about diet and weight. I'm gonna offer
Another
a
thing that
non-invasive
this
pro.
guy, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna offer a non-invasive regimen post for a week. I don't really tell them, Jerry, like everything. I'm not keeping a secret, but I'm not gonna tell you the whole program because this is This is, I hate to call it a hustle, but I learned you are paying for my research that I did and my experience. That's all you paying for. But I do believe in getting healthy should not break the bank. So I ain't gonna see me charging no crazy ass numbers. But I cater your regimen that I give you to you. What it is you, I have a non-invasive one too. But if you don't like for the non-invasive, if you don't like repeat being repetitive, it's gonna be kind of hard for you. But yeah, you don't have to eat no nasty shit. Like I remember, I had to try every diet known to man because I had my thyroid removed when I was 24. Oh my god, that one with the cottage cheese. Do you remember that one, Jerry? Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened? But that's all I was saying, Jerry. I'm glad you. I don't know which one of us brought it up first, but I do. When it bring it back to boxing, I do. I've helped boxers make weight, and I'm telling you, the regimen I put you on, I guarantee you. I can say this with a straight face. I'm not a business, so you can't sue me. This is what I can say with a straight face. Guarantee if you follow it to the letter, that first week you dropping pounds. Easy. It ain't gonna be hungry. And it's what Jerry's saying, combining, foods to get the desired result you want and to have a chemical reaction. Because sometimes a lot of y'all problems are a lack thereof, like a deficiency problem. Maybe you have an iron problem or a vitamin D problem or, absorption problem. You have a deficiency. This is why I address your medical issue, and a healthy body is a fit body. I don't never approach it like, oh, we going for 30 pounds. No, never. But the way I combine the food and I know mixing this food with that food, the chemical reaction it's gonna have on your body, our product is weight loss overall.
Yeah. And here's another thing that this guy points out, which you see, we've been taught over the years by the FDA and different entities wrong ways to eat. And here's a good example that he pointed out, and I kind of figured this out on my own. He said, like, you take a working man goes to work, he's got a ham sandwich, uh, maybe a cupcake, a bag of chips, and an apple. So that doesn't seem like a whole lot for a working man for lunch. But the problem is, you eat that ham sandwich and that bag of chips, and then you eat that apple. The apple, when it gets in, when that food makes its way into your intestines, where the act of absorption takes place, where the whatever you ate, that's where your body takes in what's valuable. The apple juice spoils the other contents, the juice of it. You're supposed to eat fruit on an empty stomach, especially anything citrus or apples. You absolutely, you really doing yourself a disservice if you eat it behind a meal. And for years it was just thought, okay, well, I have my sandwich, now I'm gonna have a piece of fruit. But you don't want to eat that fruit behind that. You want to eat it on an empty stomach, and then that fruit juice will go into your intestines, and all the goods, all the great things that are in that apple can be abstracted. If they go in there and there's bread and meat in the intestines, it actually spoils what the contents, and you get flatulence, which you know what that is.
Better preach, Jerry.
Yeah, you get flatulence. And then we was taught, when I was taught growing up, the four major food groups and eating a big breakfast. Well, that's one of the worst things a person can do, is to get up and eat that breakfast that they told us, which was eggs and sausage and pancakes and maybe a piece of fruit. Man, if you get up and you eat something like that, you're gonna be tired all damn day long.
And when you
That's
eat,
not a good breakfast. A good breakfast is a glass of juice, freshly squeezed juice. That's going to give you all kinds of nutrients and electrolytes and all the enzymes, the active enzymes that your body has to have for digestion. They're all in that fruit and vegetables that you juice, and you drink that in the morning. That you're going to feel good all day and have plenty of energy. You eat the breakfast that they told us to eat, just the opposite.
you know what else? When you eat, you should never feel tired get energetic. Ever get itis, as we like to call it, sleepy. If that's what you're doing, then you ate wrong. That's what you gotta tell yourself. A lot of people don't pay attention to what ails them. But sometimes it's a slight change there. Like I always talk about water every beginning of the show because
Yeah.
I know how important it is. I can tell you stories where I found that out. I was in the Navy. Every time I went to a cruise on the ship, often, talking 6 months or less, I never did like more than 6 months time straight. I never did the 8 months or 9 months of the year cruise. Anywho, do a cruise on a Navy ship, right? They feed you good, by the way. Navy don't get lobsters, ribeye steak. Feed good. Tell you that. But it's 12 on and 12 off while you're floating. There is no day off when you on the ship. So as I'm working my 12-hour shift or whatever, I got me this tall ass, it probably was like anywhere between 30 and 40 ounce glass, a tall cup of water. And they had ball ice, right, on the ship. And the crazy part is we make our own water. We do a good job though. But sometimes when we go in the waters and you'll see blue water, and right in front of you, you see you coming up on some doodle green or doodle brown water. And you like when you near China and all that. I'm like, I'm not doing no water now. I'm bottled water and that shit. But for the whole cruise, I would just drink water, water, water while I'm at work. It's good to be close to a bathroom, but like I said, when you start your water drink, eventually you'll level out and have your own little pace. But in the beginning, if you wasn't a big water drinker, gonna go to the bathroom after all the time. So anyway, I fill it up with ice and I fill it up with water. I'm sitting there sipping on water 12 hours straight. I know I was drinking over a gallon per day. And when I tell you, baby, when I came home, I'm dropping like 60 pounds. I'm small as a motherfucker. And I was like, how in the fuck? But my food intake increased. And what you said about stuff negating when you mix certain foods like the apple with the regular Western diet foods or whatever. Okay, think of it like algebra. That's how I do it. A positive and a positive makes a positive. A negative makes a positive. But a negative and a positive is a negative. So it's canceling you out, right? In a sense. So when people say, but I did eat this stuff. But if you threw in the bad shit too, that good shit won't have an opportunity to do stuff that it does. It's like
To
the
do it.
bad shit
Yeah.
would negate all the good shit. And a lot of people don't get that. That's why when you talk about combining foods, there's certain meals you can put together that will do exactly what you want it to do to your body. And you don't have to do not air exercise. Not one. But I'm talking about my program is not exercise based. Exercise is good because you have alternatives. Another one, a lot of people think sweat is an indication of how much weight you can lose or like how many calories you burn, and it's not. Sweat is an indication of how much your body had to work to cool yourself down. Sweat is the byproduct of the process of your body cooling itself down. Now, going through the process, anytime your body have to process anything, is usually chemical. Talking about food or anything. But when your body goes through the process, the act of going through the process what makes you burn calories, not sweat. Sweat doesn't tell you that. It cannot be measured. It's just your body temperature has to be regulated even when you're doing stuff and you're hot or you're cold. It always has to be regulated. So the sweat is telling you, yo, we working overtime to cool you down. That's the sweat is the indication of the cool down process working. And people out there, Jerry, that don't even sweat, like talking about it or can't sweat that good. them the people that fuck me up. I be like, we been out here, I'm over here dripping. I'm one of those people. It take a lot for
Right.
me to get up a good sweat. That is a telltale sign that something ain't right with you. Having absorption problems. So basically, it's a lot, Jerry. And I had to, inadvertently find some substitute. Like if I'm hungry real bad, I just did this today. I always keep a bag of grapes in my refrigerator in my room. I have a small 36 high waist, like waist high refrigerator. It's not big. It doesn't make your electric bill goes up or anything. I'm not fitting all kinds of shit in there. I just fill it with drinks like water. I do have sodas and stuff because my kid lives with me and as she wants a soda. Just because I can't drink the shit, that don't mean she can't. So I put stuff like that in there. Um, that way I don't have to be tempted with going in the kitchen. Once I get there, I'm like, ooh, let me whip up something. But I keep grapes in there, right? And I'll get hungry in the middle of the night because whenever I was pregnant, I always ate a full fucking meal like 3 in the morning. I couldn't, and after I had my kid, I still kept doing it until probably about 10, 11 years ago. So what I do is I'll grab a handful of grapes and I'll one by one eat them. I like them big, huge grapes. You can do seedless or ones with seed. Don't matter. And I would just eat them one by one. And by the time I get to the fifth or sixth grape, Jared, hungry what? I'm not hungry anymore. And then I said, wait a minute, you know, I've known this all my life that when I eat grapes, I get full quick. I just called it, oh man, I got full. But when I investigated what grapes do, and I mean, it's a lot of research. A lot of y'all ain't got time to do it, but y'all not gonna want to do it. If you're not into it, you're not gonna want to do it. But I looked into it and found out that grapes are a natural appetite suppressant. So you don't have to go to a doctor to get them shots or take fen or take something that's gonna bust your goddamn heart open one day. You can eat a grape. If your goal is to control your appetite, grapes. That's your answer. Has no side effects. Doesn't put a lot of empty calories on you.
I
Doesn't.
love grapes, but my dietitian, I got sugar. They told me don't fuck with grapes at all. She told me that one grape is equal to 1 gram of sugar. And
They
she
tell
told
that.
me a lot of fruit. I see the fruit gets a bad name for diabetics, but a lot of fruit diabetics can eat, in moderation, like a lot of things. But there's certain fruits they tell you, man, you got to stay away from them. And for diabetics, they tell you, I don't know if it's true,
No,
but
no,
they tell you
it's
grapes are
true.
one.
But Jerry, I would say this: if all you do is eat clean, and a lot of people think they eat clean, but they're not. If all you do is clean, like fruits and vegetables, that's it. That's all you eat. Then that grape won't hurt you as a person with diabetes. I've had people who are on who have diabetes. I've had people on dialysis. Out of everybody, like you named the issue. I'm not a doctor, but again, when you investigate food, you find out their properties and what they do for you. So I've had somebody with dialysis, and I love helping guys because it's one of the hardest groups to help because they on a strict, limited way that they can eat and drink. Matter of fact, the amount of liquids total that day can't go over a certain a number. No, I'm with the water. I'm like, hey, drink to your heart content. You know what I'm saying? So it posed a challenge. I'm gonna tell you my success. I've had people dialysis 3 days a week. I it dropped down to two. That was the first sign of it. Got to a point that they're not on dialysis. So if you're on dialysis, isn't that like cleaning your blood and pumping it right back into you? Plus, it affects your kidneys. So you don't want to have kidney problems. You got to. I don't want to have no kidney problems. So I ain't gonna say I cured them or whatever. I don't like to use those terms. But I know they went from having dialysis and having to do it all the time. And I never negate anything what your doctor said. Everything I give you with doctor said. Guess what? Pay off dialysis. Off.
And my father was a kidney dialysis patient, and he got a kidney transplant, and this was years ago before organ transplants were as routine as they are now. His transplant failed because the rejection drugs at the time weren't what they are now. Organ transplant was major surgery that often failed because the body rejects the organ. My father had chronic kidney failure, so he was taking dialysis 3-4 times a week. I used to go with him. That's hard on a body. He did get a transplant, but like say, I remember him showing me an article in a magazine about a medicine called cyclosporin, which is anti-rejection medicine that was in its testing stages at the time, but it was revered to be a miracle drug for transplant patients. And he told me, he said, I'm praying that this medicine gets cleared by the FDA by the time I have my surgery, because it's going to make it probably make the difference. And well, long story short, it hadn't gotten cleared. He got the transplant from my aunt, his sister. The kidney was a perfect match. It was a what they call inogen match. It was a perfect match for him. And in the first 60 days, he was pumping out, I don't know, several cc's of urine. It was working flawlessly. And then he had a little bit of difficulties urinating one day. He went, the doctors checked him out, and they told him chronic rejection.
And what they don't tell you, Jared, is
What's
if
that?
you have autoimmune disorders, you're going to reject any kind of transplant. I'm saying that comfortably. And the doctor, if I was telling the doctor that, they'd be like, oh, that's not to have an autoimmune disorder is to have your own body reject itself. So if you rejecting yourself, what you think is going to happen when you put somebody else shit in?
Yeah, true.
And they don't tell you that.
He didn't have any autoimmune issues,
They
but
do.
still, it's what they told him, and what I remember them telling him is that's your body's natural reaction. Perfect match, kidney or not, it's foreign. It's foreign to the body, and right away it's just going to reject it. Even though, like I said, he started urinating through his penis, which he hadn't done in years. Because he was getting dialysis because his kidneys didn't work at all. I got to get ready to run up to the store here, Queen, but I did want to tell you this. I'm sitting here looking at a mess of green beans that I just got out of the garden today. And tomorrow, whether it's the healthiest thing to do or not, I'm going to go get me some ham hocks, and then I'm going to make some potatoes and these green beans. I look forward to this every year because just like anything else out of the garden, they just taste way better than store-bought.
Don't they? Yes. That's to grow your own.
Yeah, and you know why it is because they're fresh. So the enzymes in there, if I go buy these same green beans at the supermarket, likely they came from out west or perhaps California. They've been out of the ground for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days. You don't know how long. These beans I just took out of the garden tonight, and I'm gonna cook them tomorrow, and the flavor it's night and day.
Out of this world. Yeah, and we're gonna get into all those talks about fresh food. Thank you. Is there anything that I know? Is there anything else you want?
Queen?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, you're dropping out on me a little bit.
Sorry. Was there anything else you want to say of closing out?
No. Just good talking to you as always. Like I say, last night I was busy with the band practice, couldn't listen to the show. I don't want to hog up your show though, you know what I mean? So, if I'm calling too much or something, you just let me know. I won't hurt my feelings,
People mostly they beam in. But if anybody wants to call in, just put it in the chat and I'll be like, Jared, we got somebody who want to call in. One day
Sure.
we get Jared beaming in because I know you don't do that all the time, but you could beam in and don't have to worry about hogging the phone in. So a
Right,
lot of
right.
times I've always had this phone available to me, and I use it specifically for the show. So it comes to the computer and everything. So if you guys ever felt the need that y'all wanted to call in, put it in the chat, and then we'll be like, hey, Jared, whatever. Jared, on them nights when we really be rolling, train be going, then you're gonna have to get with the technology and beam in, man. You're gonna have to learn how to do that, man. You do it. And see how you got my picture up here? You don't have to show your face. I can take that off and show my face. But as I told y'all, I'm in the season when I swell all the time for no reason, and I don't want to. I don't want that to be because once it's out there, and like I don't want to have that on the camera, and I just start swelling up because you guys probably be like, "Girl," you know what I'm saying? This is what I'm dealing with on the regular. So, thanks for joining the show, Jerry. We always have good talks whether we
Mm.
agree or disagree or whatever. But that's good. That's good.
All right, Queenie, well, you feel good, and I'll talk to you.
All right. Okay. Bye bye.
All right.
So yeah, just as a reminder, and let me go to my commercial again. Sure that y'all look at this commercial. That's a word from my sponsors. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about that in depth on Sunday, because a lot of people ask me. Like I said, a lot of y'all have been guests of the show, whether you chat in the background, tell me, ask my sister. I'm not a doctor. I'm not pretending, but I'm telling you out there how we how they put it out there, how we consume it. Do we get the full scope, breadth of the information? As said, when I can think of so many examples like the malnutrition one, or how people count calories and why it don't work. I'm gonna all those questions, but where and why, shaping healthy should not break the bank. And it's an alternative way, but also I'm very open minded because I'm gonna be a lot of people ain't gonna be vegans, and I know a lot of people say, more people that's fat that's vegans, and it's funny to me because I know that that's what they see, but you see a lot of vegans that are not, and you just don't recognize them. They don't register in your head, and you don't remember them. But there's more vegans out there that's not than it is that is. But like we had just said, eat all the clean point, throwing the cake in there, you throwing all the other stuff in the mix. You're negating the good stuff that you like. Anything when they'll say one apple can spoil a bunch because you put something rotten next to something good, it's going to contaminate. It's going to be powerful, contaminate the whole bunch. But there's other things like turmeric, ginger. There's all kinds of things you can put in your food to make a difference. And sometimes how you combine the food, break a fast, front load on the carbs, and not a big breakfast, front load carbs in the morning, whereas the back up off them. But a potato is a meal by itself. And if you that person that like to put sour cream, chives, and cheese, and all the butter and all this other bullshit in a potato, then you have negated all the nutrients that potato brought to you by doing that. So I'm gonna get into that and what cooking does for food. They don't. Uh, I personally eat more vegan than I eat anything else, but I do eat other things. So sometimes finding the health in you is gonna require us to figure out a good schedule. Maybe you're a person 5 days out the week you eat. Those 2 days you let it rip. That's cool. That's a balance. That's what we're trying to do. Find that balance. And then we're also trying to locate the culprit that's causing you the problem. Certain how to do that. Realize it. Then, because part of my program is phases. The first phase, startup. The second phase is slowly introduce stuff back that you like. And the third phase is how you're going to eat life. And I'm not a person that's going to be Dr. Sabi out. Or not, nothing wrong with Dr. Sabi. He's very good. And to the person that can do it, I advocate that anybody who can do that lifestyle, do it. I fully am in support of him for the people that still carry on his legacy. But you know, some of us can do it and some of us can't. Like me, I only certain food I like. I have a problem with digestion. I always have. So codfish, I do like crab cakes. I like natural crab cakes. Uh, I've tried salmon. I've never had nobody who can make salmon really well. Tasted their salmon. But every time I make it, and I do is I follow the book to the T. Never like it. But the rest of my family be like mouth watering. They were like, oh my God. I don't like watermelon. Everybody say watermelon tastes sweet. I never thought watermelon tastes sweet. But when I eat it really, it is sweet. Like, this is why they always say watermelon tastes so sweet. And people clamoring for it. My family like it's a piece of cake. So anything more in depth in it, because I figured that would be the best venue to do it. If not, you guys can send me questions. I'll answer them to the best of my ability, or I'll direct you to find those answers. I usually mention it. So I will always be water drinking. Thank you, Jared, for joining the show. Thank you guys for some of that responses. Hope to see all of you Sunday. I'm actually going to offer for the free non-invasive way to eat for the week. Want to go hot balls to wall? There is a charge. I base it on. I base my charge a lot of things. How other folks charge for just getting healthy or just losing weight. Weight loss is the topic this Sunday, straight up. So you'll see. Some of you guys might only 5 or 10 pounds or 20. Got you. We can do this. Got you. But be sure to tune in. Great News Sartos is in the building. Was popping, King. He said your microphone has been going in and out for a long time now. Miss C, thank you for letting me know. When I move around, I guess when I'm moving around and going backwards and stuff, it's not picking up. So I know you hear me clearly now at this moment. I'm leaning into the microphone. So that's what I'm probably going to have to do. Is just lean into the microphone. I don't know why I always had this problem. So I apologize. The show was kind of muffled or messed up because of how the mic is picking up my voice or whatever. I think I sound loud as hell, but a lot of y'all be like, oh, she talks softly. I've always been told that. And I get the raspy voice sometimes, but that's my thyroid condition. But time people be like, oh, sound like I don't know if it's do I got enough bass, or I got enough treble in my voice. I don't really know. But thanks for letting me know, Ray New. And I'm not gonna repeat everything I said, but do tune in on Sunday at 1 p.m. Okay, we're gonna talk about diet and weight loss. We're gonna get into the weeds of it. And I'm gonna offer for free a non-invasive meal plan for 1 week. And what I can promise, you're gonna lose weight. But with the non-invasive, is more slow than the more invasive. But for the invasive one, I do charge. And invasive, when I'm saying evasive, non-invasive, I'm not talking about sticking nobody with nothing, or you gotta get yourself open up or do a procedure. I'm talking about plain and simple, what have you. You know what I'm saying? Just plain and simple eating. You know what I'm saying? And my invasive way, I promise you'll lose 15 to 20 pounds. I've had to come around to thinking, oh, most of the people want that. They just want that, instead of, my approach has always been to get your body healthy. Everything else will fall in line. That's the preferred method I like. Um, and although it's no shortcut to being healthy and or losing weight, but the way I do it, you drop it quick. And I know this, like I said, because I've had 5 years experience. I've done it for free, just to know if what I was saying was correct or whatever. And a lot of people be hesitant, then they do it and they be like, whoa, whoa, and you're not gonna be sick, and it's gonna be real weight. But I will promise this. Uh, some of you might be busy at church or something that day. I will tell you this: there's 1,000 ways to fish, kill a fish. However you cut it. Say cat, but I don't. I love cats. I ain't gonna say that no more. 1,000 ways to scale a fish. This is 1,000 ways diet to get results. But there is no shortcut. But my way, it happens very fast. Think of a diet that you can do to drop 15 to 20 pounds in 1 week and feel normal and feel okay. Be sick. You're not going to be hurting your body. Follow it to the letter. That is going to be your byproduct. That's going to happen to you. I've seen it happen over. Want to join me on Sunday? That's what the show is. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Enjoy the rest of your day. Y'all for joining me. Remember, when you know better, you do better.